The Priestess's time travel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 901 I Am the Phoenix Man 5. The truck driver took the responsibility for the intentional wounding. After the truck driver recovered from his injury, he went to jail, and the Duong family was not hurt at all. The police officers also suspected that the Duong family had instructed the truck driver to do it, but they had no clues. Duong's father was an old fox, and he would never involve himself in such a murder. He turned several corners and was very careful, but the police officer Rao and could not find any evidence of the Duong family hiring a killer to kill someone. Duong's father could not believe that Su Qingni was so lucky that she did not die. But now he cannot make a second move. If he makes a move again, the police may find clues and go to the Duong family. It's a good thing for Su said, so he can live a few more years. However, if he can't kill Su said, he won't let Su said have an easy life. He will spread the word that Su said cannot gain a foothold in this city. Don't Su said's parents live in the mountains? He can donate some money to the local area, build a mountain road, and then spread the word that he, the sponsor, has a grudge against the Su family. Are you afraid that the Su family will have an easy life in his hometown? Thinking of this, Dong's father asked his men to implement it. But he didn't know that he was a step late. Seeing that the Duong family took action against him so quickly, Su Qingni hurriedly left the city and returned to his hometown. He decided to take Su's father, Su's mother and other people from the Su family away and resettle them in other places. Through the memory of the original body, Su Qingni could see what kind of person Dong's father was. He would take action against himself, and he would not let go of the original body's family. In fact, killing the Duong family would be a one-time solution. But this is a legal society after all, and although the original body did not do anything wrong in his previous life, he did have some things that were not good enough for Dong Rulan. Dong Rulan retaliated against the original body, and she had no right to say anything more. Anyway, just stay away from it, and don't get involved with the Dong family in the future. The original body Su said has some savings over the years. Su Qingni has used these savings to go around in the stock market for a few rounds and multiplied the savings of 500,000 yuan tenfold. With these 5 million, it is enough to resettle the Su family. Su Qingni returned home and was warmly received by the whole family and even the whole village. The original body was a golden phoenix that flew out of the village, and was the most successful one. Everyone was proud of him. All the villagers ran to the Su family, and it was lively for a long time before they dispersed. Su's mother took the eldest daughter-in-law and the second daughter-in-law to prepare a sumptuous dinner, and killed an old hen in the family to make soup for the youngest son. The rich aroma of chicken soup made the children drool. Su's mother was very partial and gave both chicken legs to Su Qingni, and then gave the rest to others. Su Qingni saw the 2 nephews and 3 nieces staring at the chicken legs, smiled, tore the meat from the chicken legs, and gave them to the 5 children. You kid, why are you giving them? Eat quickly. Su's mother said hurriedly, and then she glared at the children with her eyes wide open. You have meat to eat every day, but now you are so greedy, snatching meat from your uncle? Aren't you afraid that your uncle will laugh at you? It turned out that the family conditions were very difficult, and they could not eat meat twice a year. However, the youngest son has made progress. He found a job in a big city and married the daughter of a wealthy family. He would send a lot of money home every month. This money has improved the family's life. Now the family has not only built a new house, but also has money to buy meat every day. It is indeed better to study. After studying well, you can go out and experience a broader life and make more money. In the future, we must urge the children to study hard, just like their uncle. After dinner, the family gathered together and began to ask Su Qingni. After all, it was not a festival at this time, so why did Su Qingni suddenly come back? Little one, did something happen? Su's father asked Su Qingni with concern. Su Qingni sighed and said, Dong Rulan and I are divorced. What? Divorced? Su's mother was surprised. Why are we divorced? Did that woman Dong Rulan do something to let you down? In Su's mother's heart, her son is the best, and the bad ones are all others. Su Qingni smiled and said, she didn't do anything to let me down, it's just that we are not suitable. After all, she is a rich lady, and I am just a poor boy. The concepts between us are too different. Su's mother, huh? She must look down on us poor people. My dear, don't be sad. There is nothing good about this woman Dong Rulan. It's just right that she is divorced. Mother will introduce you to other girls. I promise that they are all virgins who can give you a son. Su's mother was extremely resentful that Dong Rulan only gave birth to a daughter. Like her other two daughters-in-law, although they also gave birth to daughters, they still gave her grandsons, so that the two eldest sons could inherit the incense. But Dong Rulan only gave birth to a daughter but complained that giving birth was too painful and was unwilling to have a second child. How could Su's mother be satisfied? In fact, Su's mother had wanted to change her daughter-in-law for a long time. Su Qingni waved her hand and refused. Mom, don't worry. I want to go abroad to study for a few years after you settle down, and get a doctorate degree. The future will be better. Ever since Su took the top scorer in the city's college entrance examination and entered the best university in the country, the Su family began to understand about studying and diplomas. The top scorer in the college entrance examination has a bonus. Knowing that studying can make money, how can they not pay attention? Therefore, the Su family knew that after graduating from university, they would get a bachelor's degree, and above that, there are postgraduate master's degrees, doctoral degrees, and postdoctoral degrees. Su can find a good job just after graduating from university, so wouldn't his future be better if he became a doctor? What's more, he went abroad to study for a doctorate. Although they were reluctant to let their son go abroad, for the sake of their son's better future, Su's father and mother agreed to let Su Qingni go abroad. Su Qingni persuaded Su's father and mother to follow him to settle down in the city. As for the eldest brother and sister-in-law and the second brother and sister-in-law, he didn't need to persuade them. The four of them had already been moved. They were full of longing for the city. Besides, Su Qingni has already figured out how they will make a living after settling down in the city. The eldest sister-in-law's biological father is a famous red and white pastry chef in the surrounding area including the county town, so his skills are beyond words. The eldest sister-in-law learned a lot from her father, and after arriving in the city, she opened a farmhouse restaurant, with the eldest sister-in-law as the chef, the second sister-in-law as the assistant, and the other two brothers doing other chores. The business of this restaurant will not be too bad, and it should be able to support a large family. My dear, you are taking us to settle down in the city and going abroad. Do you have enough money? Su's father asked worriedly. Su Qingni smiled slightly. Dad, don't worry. I have saved some money over the years, and later made some from the stock market. The money is enough for me to use, don't worry. I also thought about leaving some money in the village when I leave, so that everyone can have money to repair the road down the mountain, so that it will be more convenient to go up and down the mountain in the future. Chapter 902 I Am Phoenix Man 6. Su Qingni didn't know that Dong's father wanted to use the donation to build a road to sow discord between the villagers and the Su family, so as to deal with the Su family. But she donated money to build a road first, which caused Dong's father's calculation to fail again, and Dong's father almost bit off the root of a tooth. Dong's father believed Dong Rulan's words even more, and felt that he had misjudged the person at the beginning. Su says scheming was so deep, but he acted harmless and respectful in front of them. It turned out that he was calculating their Dong family. Dong's father was even more afraid of Su and wanted to get rid of Su completely. Unfortunately, he was a step too late. The Su family had been taken away by Su Qingni a long time ago, and he had no news of Su. The camera turned back. When Su's father heard that Su Qingni was going to build a road for the village, he was shocked and said, "Building a road costs a lot of money. Do you have that much?" Su Qingni smiled. "I still have money for building a road. I decided to give the village 1 million for building a road." 1 million. The Su family was all shocked and took a deep breath. 1 million. This is an astronomical sum of money for them. They had never seen even 100,000 yuan, let alone 1 million. So much? Su's mother stared. "No, how can I give so much money to others? I have to keep it for my family." Su Qingni smiled and said, "Mom, I still have money. Don't worry, we won't starve. The people in the village have been very caring to our family over the years. This 1 million is my return to the village." Su's father took a puff on his pipe, exhaled white smoke, and said, "You are right. We are rich, and it is necessary to give back to the village. But you have to do it within your means." Su Qingni, "Dad, I have done it within my means. 1 million is not a lot for me. I still have 4 million in my hand." "What? 4 million. When the Su family heard this number, their jaws dropped. Then they grinned and couldn't close their mouth. 4 million. It's 4 times 1 million. It's even more than a huge sum of money. Although all this money belongs to the youngest, as his relatives, we should be able to get a little bit, right? The eldest brother and his wife, the second brother and his wife thought happily that they didn't want more, and they would be satisfied if Su Qingni could give them 100,000 yuan. What they didn't know was that Su Qingni decided to leave all 4 million to the Su family, and the money was earned by her original savings. Su Qingni took them away from their familiar hometown, so naturally she had to leave more money so that they could settle down in the new place. With money in hand, they could also feel less homesick and panic when leaving their hometown. As for herself, with her skills, it would be so easy for her to make money. Su Qingni told her future plans: when we get to the city, I will buy 3 houses, one for my parents, one for my eldest brother's family, and one for my second brother's family. We won't go to those coastal cities or big cities, but to third-tier cities in the province that are close to our hometown. I have found out that the housing prices there are not expensive, more than 5,000 yuan per square meter. 1.5 million will be enough to buy 3 houses of more than 90 square meters. I will also buy a shop and open a local restaurant for my eldest brother and his wife and my second brother and his wife, spending 1 million each. The remaining 1.5 million will be divided between you 2 elders and my eldest brother's family and my second brother's family. Not only will they have a new house to live in the city, but they will also be given a shop to do business, and each of them will have 500,000 yuan? Exclamation mark. The eldest brother Su and his wife and the second brother Su and their wife looked at Su Qingni as if they were looking at the god of wealth, their eyes full of gratitude and joy. However, Su's father and mother objected. No, if you give all the money to us, won't you be penniless? How can you go abroad? Su Qingni smiled and comforted the 2 old people. Don't worry, I have a way to make money. You should believe in your son's ability. How can money be so easy to make? Su's father said. Su Qingni said, well, money is indeed not easy to make. But I have made some arrangements before going home to help me make money. Don't worry, I will definitely have money to go abroad. Once I am abroad, money will only be easier to make. Su's eldest sister-in-law said with envy and admiration, Dad and Mom, the youngest is a scholar, and he must have a good way to make a lot of money. When Shitao, Chunni and Qiuni go to school, I must urge them to study hard, get into a good university like their uncle, and make a lot of money after graduation. Su's second sister-in-law nodded repeatedly. I will ask Xiaoshan and Dongni to do the same in the future. The 2 sisters-in-law cooperated tacitly and quickly attracted the attention of Su's father and mother to their grandchildren. The 2 did not want Su's father and mother to think about Su Qingni's distribution of the 4 million. The house and the money, since the brother-in-law gave them, they naturally had to get it. Su Qingni saw through the 2 sisters-in-law's thoughts, smiled slightly, and did not expose them. The next day, Su Qingni went to the village chief and told him about the donation to build the road. The village chief was a man of action, and immediately arranged for people to buy raw materials for road construction and organize people to build the road. When the villagers knew that Su Qingni took out 1 million to build the road for the village, they all praised Su Qingni. In the past, Su Se was the pride of the village, and now Su Qingni's move convinced some people in the village who were originally unconvinced. The villagers acted quickly and had already started construction before the Su family left the village. The villagers spontaneously organized to see the Su family off, and sent them all the way to the foot of the mountain before returning to the village. The Su family looked at the backs of the villagers who were leaving and felt reluctant, thinking that they would come back. Then, everyone got on a bus to another city with a yearning for a new life. Just as they got on the bus, the men sent by Dong's father got off the bus. The 2 sides just missed each other by chance. They came to a third-tier city about 100 kilometers away from the original village. Su Qingni settled the Su family. Because she collected information about the city in advance, the resettlement process was very smooth and fast. The house she bought was a renovated house, and she could move in with her luggage. Because she took into account that Su's father and mother had never taken an elevator and worried that they would be scared, Su Qingni bought 3 houses on the first floor. Su Qingni asked someone to circle the balconies outside the 3 houses, dug out the cement floor, and exposed the mud inside, so that Su's father and mother could grow some vegetables and raise 2 chickens to pass the time. The local restaurant also opened quickly. The sister-in-law's cooking skills are beyond words. Although there is no strong publicity, this local restaurant is known by more and more people through word of mouth from people who come to eat. Many people are willing to come to this authentic farmhouse restaurant for dinner. The restaurant business was getting better and better. The eldest brother and his wife were extremely busy, but they were busy happily and full of energy every day. The 5 children were sent to primary school and kindergarten respectively. After the initial panic, they adapted well, made many friends, and were happy every day. Su Qingni could leave with peace of mind. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 903 I Am Phoenix Man 7. Su Qingni wrote a paper as a stepping stone to get into a foreign university. Not long after, she received an admission letter from the university. During this period, Su Qingni made 2 million yuan from programming. With money in hand, she packed her luggage and set off as soon as the admission letter arrived. Su's father and mother sent Su Qingni to the airport in the provincial capital. This was the first time they saw a real plane at the airport. "My son, if you meet a good girl abroad, just marry her. Your father and I have thought it through. There are also good foreign women. They will give us a mixed-race grandson in the future. It is said that mixed-race children are very beautiful." Su's mother whispered to her son. Su Qingni's mouth twitched when she heard it. She didn't want to get married. Where could she get a grandson for Su's mother? How about adopting a child abroad, bringing it back to Su's father and mother, and saying that the child is their own, and the child's mother didn't want a child and ran away? Keep this idea, maybe it can be used in the future. Studying and living abroad is just like that. Su Qingni has lived abroad for several lifetimes and attended foreign universities, so there is no such thing as not being able to adapt to the environment. Studying is very simple for Su Qingni. In 1 year, she completed the graduate credits, obtained a master's degree, started to study for a doctorate, and then mixed into a research room. However, Su Qingni was just a soy sauce in this research room. Just because she was a Chinese national, the people in the research room would not hand over important research to Su Qingni. Su Qingni did not want to interfere with the research of foreign research rooms. She came abroad just to gild herself and wanted to find a reason for herself to shine after returning to China, so as not to make people wonder how she suddenly knew the technology in different fields. There are many small gangs in the school. Although Su Qingni did not take the initiative to join, she was also pulled into them by an alumnus from China. The people here are all from China. Everyone gets together every once in a while to exchange feelings. If someone encounters difficulties, everyone will help if they can. They unite together in order not to be bullied by other xenophobic students. The laboratory had just completed a project, and Su Qingni was given a 10-day vacation. There happened to be a party, so Su Qingni came to participate. There were new members in the Mutual Aid Association, all of whom had just come out of China. One of them was the cousin of the vice president, a very lively girl who liked to make friends. She brought more compatriots to join the Mutual Aid Association. Su Qingni drank a fairly good quality wine, and her eyes fell on a girl. She remembered that the girl was called Gong Lilan, and she had just been abroad for less than a month. She did not get into the university by herself, but her parents spent money to put her into a foreign university. Therefore, the university she attended was only third-rate, far from being as good as those who went to world-class prestigious universities. However, because the girl's family had a lot of money, everyone knew that Gong Lilan had a good family background through the vice president's cousin, so there were many people who tried to please Gong Lilan and circled around her. Gong Lilan ignored these people, just sat aside in a daze. The whole person looked cold, and looked high and mighty, which hurt the self-esteem of many people. Those who can enter a world-class university are all excellent and have high self-esteem. They all felt a little embarrassed to please Gong Lilan for her family background, but Gong Lilan didn't appreciate it. These people were so angry that they simply dispersed and ignored Gong Lilan. Rumors spread that Gong Lilan was arrogant and looked down on others. Su Qingni observed Gong Lilan for a while and found that she was not arrogant. She was absent-minded. She sat here, but her heart didn't know where to fly. Combined with the sadness and grief that flashed in Gong Lilan's eyes from time to time, Su Qingni thought that this girl must have encountered something bad to be like this. Looking at Gong Lilan's pale face, Su Qingni asked the waiter for a cup of hot milk and walked towards Gong Lilan, who was sitting next to her. Su Qingni handed the milk in her hand to Gong Lilan. Gong Lilan glanced at her, did not take the milk, and looked away and continued to be in a daze. With this kind of performance, it's no wonder that others say she is arrogant. Su Qingni spoke, drink some hot milk to warm your belly. The baby in your belly needs nutrition. What did you say? Gong Lilan suddenly opened her eyes wide and looked at Su Qingni. Su Qingni said, you are pregnant. If you want this child, you must take good care of your body. Your current condition is not good for the baby in your belly. He is in danger of miscarriage at any time. Gong Lilan stroked her belly with both hands and said in an incredible voice, I'm pregnant? I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. Tears slid down her cheeks, and Gong Lilan cried, I have a child, Yunji, I have your child. Su Qingni took out a tissue and handed it to Gong Lilan. Gong Lilan took the tissue, but she couldn't control her tears. Su Qingni had no choice but to half support her away from the dance hall of the party and took her into a private room. Well, the hot milk was still in Su Qingni's hand. Gong Lilan came to the box and saw that there was no one else except Su Qingni, so she burst into tears and cried bitterly. Su Qingni rubbed her nose and sat opposite Gong Lilan to let her cry to her heart's content. Finally, Gong Lilan gradually stopped crying, and Su Qingni pushed the milk in front of her. Gong Lilan couldn't help laughing when she saw Su Qingni's persistence in getting her to drink milk. She touched her belly and her expression softened. For the baby in her belly, she would also drink this glass of milk. Picking up the cup of milk, Gong Lilan drank it in small sips. Thank you. Gong Lilan thanked Su Qingni. If you hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't have known I was pregnant. Are you a doctor? No, I studied mechanical engineering. But I'm more interested in Chinese medicine and have read some medical skills. You know, Chinese medicine emphasizes observation, auscultation, questioning and palpation. I looked at your complexion and judged that you were pregnant. Su Qingni said, but you actually believed me? Aren't you afraid that I would make a wrong judgment? Gong Lilan shook her head and said, actually, I had a hunch. My menstruation has not come for 2 months. I thought it was because I was sad that my menstruation was irregular. Thanks to your reminder, otherwise I don't know how much this child would have to suffer. This is Yunji's only connection in this world, I can't lose him. Su Qingni raised her eyebrows. Sure enough, there was a story in it. It seemed that Su Qingni was a good person and far away from people and things in China. Gong Lilan had the desire to tell, are you interested in listening to my story? Chapter 904 I am Phoenix Man 8. Gong Lilan is a second-generation rich man, and her family background is 10 times stronger than Dong Rulan. The Dong family is only a wealthy family in one city, but the Gong family is a wealthy family in the whole country. The Gong family's group ranks among the top 500 in the world's corporate rankings. The Gong family has only one daughter, Gong Lilan. Gong's parents also dote on Gong Lilan very much and want to give their daughter the best. Maybe rich girls just like poor boys. Gong Lilan also fell in love with a poor boy, Shu Yunji. The difference between Shu Yunji and Su Se is that he is an orphan. If Gong Lilan marries Shu Yunji, there will definitely be no conflict between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. However, Gong's parents are very opposed to Gong Lilan and Shu Yunji being together. Because of Shu Yunji's job, Shu Yunji is a soldier, and a soldier in the special forces. With such a profession that can be sacrificed at any time, how can Gong's parents be willing to let a woman marry Shu Yunji? Who knows if their daughter will become a widow one day. Gong Lilan is very stubborn. She has identified Shu Yunji and is determined not to compromise with her parents. Gong's father and mother can't beat their daughter, and they gradually soften. At this time, Shu Yunji died. Gong Lilan was hit hard. Although Gong's father and mother felt sorry for their daughter, they secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the two had not married yet, otherwise their daughter would have become second-hand goods. There would be no better men in the circle in the future. Gong's father and mother were afraid that their daughter would be sad in China, so they spent money to send her abroad to study and let her relax. They did not expect that their daughter already had Shu Yunji's child in her belly. If they knew, they would definitely let Gong Lilan abort the child. The daughter is still young and will have other children after getting married. This child must not be born, and the value of a young woman with a child will drop a lot. After Gong Lilan told her experience, she frowned when she thought of her parents' reaction. She must not let her parents know that she was pregnant. Su Qingni sent Gong Lilan home that night. The intersection of the two people made people in the circle think that Su Qingni was pursuing Gong Lilan, and Gong Lilan, a proud woman, was blindly attracted to Su Qingni. Although Su Qingni was also excellent and good-looking, they thought they were not inferior to Su Qingni, so why didn't Gong Lilan fancy them? Because of this incident, many men became estranged from Su Qingni. Su Qingni didn't care about it. The second meeting was in the supermarket. Gong Lilan bought a lot of things. In addition to milk powder, eggs, fruits and other foods to supplement nutrition, most of the things she bought were convenience foods. She bought 3 big bags, and the weight. Even if Gong Lilan was not pregnant, she couldn't carry so many things. Gong Lilan looked at the things and worried, how to take them home? Su Qingni saw this scene and walked up and asked, "Do you need help?" If it was another man, Gong Lilan would have refused. But seeing that it was Su Qingni, Gong Lilan nodded and agreed. She had a very good impression of Su Qingni. Su Qingni picked up the 3 big bags and asked Gong Lilan to lead the way. Gong Lilan's home was nearby, and her parents bought her an apartment. The apartment has a good environment and good security. However, the area is not large, with only 1 bedroom and 1 living room. The kitchen is very large and open. Su Qingni sat on the sofa in the living room, drinking mineral water. The sofa faced the kitchen, and she could clearly see Gong Lilan sorting out the food she bought. Su Qingni couldn't help but say, "Why did you buy so many convenience foods? Convenience foods are not nutritious. You are a pregnant woman now, so you should eat more nutritious food." Gong Lilan smiled awkwardly, "Well, I'm not a good cook." "Well, I did buy nutritious food. You see, I bought milk powder for pregnant women, and I also bought a lot of fruits." Gong Lilan took out the fruits she bought and showed them to Su Qingni. When Su Qingni saw fruits such as papaya, mango, kiwi, and longan, her eyelids twitched and she said, "Many pregnant women can't eat too much of these fruits you bought." "What?" Gong Lilan looked at Su Qingni in surprise. "Are these fruits taboo for pregnant women?" "It can't be said to be taboo, but you can't eat too much?" Su Qingni said, "Fruits such as papaya and mango contain a lot of sugar, which will affect the healthy development of the child. Kiwi is cold in nature, and longan is dry in nature, so you can't eat too much. In addition, you can't eat too many apricots. Apricots are hot foods and have the effect of causing miscarriage. Eating too much will harm both pregnant women and children. Hawthorn can't be eaten. I know this. It is said that hawthorn has the effect of promoting blood circulation, removing blood stasis and dredges menstruation. It has a certain contraction effect on the uterus. The chance of miscarriage is very high if you eat too much hawthorn." Gong Lilan said. Su Qingni nodded, "You can't just eat fruits to absorb nutrients, you still have to eat staple foods. The nutrients in staple foods are easier to absorb and better for the fetus." Gong Lilan lowered her head and twisted her fingers. "Well, my cooking skills are really bad. I don't want to eat these foreign foods, and Chinatown is too far from where I live." Su Qingni saw a bottle of Laogan Ma on the cooking table and twitched her mouth. This girl hasn't been eating Laogan Ma bibimbap or Laogan Ma on bread slices all this time, right? Su Qingni felt very sympathetic towards Gong Lilan. In view of the fact that she was holding the child of a hero, she decided to take care of the mother and child for a while until Gong Lilan gave birth to the child in her belly. "I can cook, and I will come to your house every day to help you cook once a day in the future," Su Qingni said. Gong Lilan looked at Su Qingni in surprise. Why is he so nice to her? They have only met twice, including this time. Does he know her family background like other men and want to be a phoenix man? Su Qingni understood Gong Lilan's thoughts and said, "Don't think too much. I just want the child. The child's father is respectable. I hope that such a hero who sacrificed his life for the country can have the child to continue his bloodline." Gong Lilan heard that Su Qingni helped her because of Shu Yunji. Tears flowed down again, and she kept saying, thank you, you are a good person." Good. Su Qingni got up from the sofa and walked out the door. "Are you leaving?" Gong Lilan asked hurriedly, "Is my suspicion making you angry?" I apologize to you." Then she bowed to Su Qingni. Su Qingni hurriedly said, "I'll go to the supermarket to buy some fresh ingredients and come back to make you an authentic huoguo dinner. You clean up the kitchen first." "Oh, okay." Gong Lilan nodded hurriedly. Hearing that Su Qingni was only going to buy ingredients and would come back, she felt relieved. It's rare to meet such a good person, and she doesn't want to become a stranger with him because of offending him. Chapter 905 I Am Phoenix Man 9. After that, Su Qingni would come to cook for Gong Lilan every day. Of course, she couldn't just cook for one meal. Every time she cooked, she would make more and leave it for Gong Lilan, so that Gong Lilan could heat it up in the microwave for the next meal. Time passed quickly while taking care of Gong Lilan. 2 months passed in a blink of an eye, and Gong Lilan's belly grew bigger. Su Qingni accompanied Gong Lilan to the hospital for a prenatal checkup. Now Gong Lilan trusts Su Qingni very much, and is quite dependent on her. If she hadn't loved Xu Yunji in her heart, Gong Lilan felt that she might fall in love with Su Qingni. But this is impossible. Gong Lilan is very stubborn in love. She has set her sights on Xu Yunji and will never change in her life. Even if Xu Yunji is dead. Gong Lilan regards Su Qingni as her brother, and has feelings for Su Qingni, but they are just friendship and family affection. The fetus is very healthy. Su Qingni said to Gong Lilan while looking at the examination report. Gong Lilan held her waist and smiled at Su Qingni, saying, "Thanks to your feeding, the child has grown so well." Su Qingni smiled and said, "It's also thanks to your cooperation as a mother." Gong Lilan was about to answer when her cell phone rang. Gong Lilan glanced at the screen and saw that it was her parents calling. "Dad, Mom." Gong Lilan's face changed after hearing what was said on the other end of the phone. Su Qingni's hearing naturally heard what Gong's mother said on the other end of the phone. It turned out that the couple missed their daughter and wanted to visit her abroad. But as soon as they came, Gong Lilan's belly was exposed. How could she not panic? Gong Lilan hung up the phone and was so panicked that she couldn't walk for a while. She stood at the door of the hospital in a daze, not knowing what to do. Su Qingni sighed, walked to her side, supported the pregnant woman, and asked, "Is there anything I can help with?" Gong Lilan's eyes lit up when she saw Su Qingni. Gong Lilan grabbed Su Qingni's arm and said anxiously, "Su-sen, please marry me." Huh? Su Qingni was dumbfounded for a moment. Gong Lilan hurriedly explained, "Let's have a fake marriage. You pretend to be the father of my child first, and then we'll divorce in a year." Su Qingni. She understood what Gong Lilan wanted to do. Su Qingni, you should marry a man who truly loves you and is willing to accept your child. Gong Lilan shook her head vigorously, "I should not marry such a man. I only have Yunji in my heart, and I will not accept other men." Su said, "I know you have no feelings for me, and you are the best choice for me. Please help me." Su Qingni thought for a while and said, "Okay. But I have a condition." "Why the condition?" Gong Lilan asked hurriedly. Su Qingni said, "I don't want to get married again in this life, but my parents want grandchildren. I originally planned to adopt one, and now you are here just right." Gong Lilan understood. "Do you want your parents to think that my child is your biological son?" Su Qingni nodded. "My condition is that when my parents are still alive, the child will have my surname. When my parents leave this world, let the child change back to his biological father's surname. Do you accept it?" "Accept it? Of course I accept it. It's just to fool the two old people. Anyway, the child will eventually have the surname of the biological father." Gong Lilan nodded and asked, "Are you really not going to get married again?" She inquired about Su Qingni's past and knew that he was a Phoenix man. Well, Phoenix man here is not a derogatory term, but his wife was tired of him and kicked him out. He left the house with nothing and was suppressed by his father-in-law in City A. He was even hired to kill someone. There is no evidence, but it can be seen that it was the work of his ex-wife's family. It's really pitiful. Maybe because of this, Su Qingni was disappointed with marriage and didn't want to get married again. Gong Lilan was thinking. Neither of them wanted to find someone else to start a real marriage life, so could they cooperate for a longer time and keep the fake marriage going for a longer time? In this way, she could avoid her parents urging to get married, live a peaceful life, and miss her lover? Gong Lilan told Su Qingni about this idea, and Su Qingni agreed after thinking about it. The two of them made an agreement, although this agreement really did not have much legal effect. Gong's father and mother came to the United States and were shocked and angry when they saw their daughter's big belly. Gong Lilan immediately pulled Su Qingni out and stood in front of her parents. Gong's father and mother were not fools, and they knew that Su Qingni was pulled out by their daughter to take the blame. Just by looking at the month of the baby in their daughter's belly, they could analyze that the child was not Su Qingni's, but Xu Yunji's. Gong's father and Su Qingni had a deep talk, and finally Gong's father agreed to Su Qingni and his daughter's marriage, but asked the two to follow him back to China to register for marriage. Su Qingni had no objection. She had completed enough credits. She could get a doctorate degree by writing a paper and defending it. After knowing Su Qingni, Gong's father immediately arranged for someone to investigate Su Qingni, and naturally found out about Su Qingni's marriage to Dong Rulan. Gong's father was a little dissatisfied that Su Qingni was not married for the first time, but he swallowed his dissatisfaction when he thought that the child in his daughter's belly was not Su Qingni's. Then he watched the whole story of Su Qingni's divorce from Dong Rulan, and Gong's father couldn't help but sympathize with Su Qingni. It seems that you have to choose a good target to be a phoenix man, otherwise you don't know how you died if you choose a family like the Dong family. It was also because Su Qingni was lucky and smart that she escaped the Dong family's black hands. He couldn't figure it out. Did his daughter kick him out because she didn't like him? Why do you have to kill him? Even if you kill the phoenix man, it can't change the fact that your daughter is a second-hand product. Moreover, Su Qingni is so outstanding. She is no longer in the business world. She can go abroad to get a doctorate degree. Such an outstanding young person, the Dong family actually gave up. He is so short-sighted that he can only stay in that small place in City A for the rest of his life. Su Se is going to be a top scientist in the future. When Su Se becomes successful, let's see if the Dong family will regret it. Well, the above point is the main reason why Father Gong accepted Su Qingni as his son-in-law. It was because Su Qingni said that he would not join the Gong family's company, and he would go the road of scientific research in the future. Father Gong does not have to worry about his family's industry being taken away by outsiders. Because Gong Lilan was pregnant, Su Qingni and her only registered and did not hold a wedding. This was also Gong Lilan's request. She did not want to hold a wedding with any man except Xu Yangji, and did not want to wear a wedding dress for another man, even if it was fake. Su Qingni had no objection to this. She even thought the wedding was troublesome. Besides, the bride was not Tai. Chapter 906 I am the Phoenix Man. After the registration, Su Qingni took Su's father and mother to Beijing, where the Gong family lived, and lived there for a while. Su's father and mother didn't know that the child in Gong Lilan's belly was someone else's. They just thought that their son got Gong Lilan pregnant abroad, and they had to register for marriage quickly after being caught by the other person's parents. Therefore, they did not blame Su Qingni for not inviting them to marry Gong Lilan, but felt sorry for Gong Lilan and treated Gong Lilan very well. Gong Lilan's emotional intelligence is much higher than Dong Rulan. Although she doesn't like some of Su's father and mother's behaviors, she won't say it out, nor will she quarrel with them. Gong Lilan will hide in her room or simply go back to her mother's house because of her stomach discomfort. Perfectly avoid the conflict between Su's father and mother. Su's father and mother therefore have a better impression of Gong Lilan, especially after Gong Rulan gave birth to a son. Su's father and mother thought this was their grandson, and they loved the child so much, and were more satisfied with their daughter-in-law. In this life, Su's father and mother did not live with Su Qingni in Beijing. After the child was 1 month old, they returned to the city where their eldest son and second son lived. In Dong Rulan's life, Su Se's eldest brother and second brother did not have their own careers and had been farming in their hometown. Su's father and mother naturally wanted to enjoy the happiness with the most promising youngest son. In this life, with the help of Su Qingni, Su's eldest brother and second brother have their own careers. The living conditions at home have improved. Su's father and mother are enjoying their lives with whichever son they live. According to the inherent concept of the older generation, it is right for the elderly to live with the eldest son. Besides, the eldest son, the second son and the 2 daughters-in-law are busy with their careers, and there is no one to take care of their grandchildren. How can the 2 old people feel at ease? Naturally, they have to go back to help take care of their grandchildren. Su Qingni personally sent Su's father and mother back to the city where Su's eldest brother and his family lived. Seeing the old couple taking care of their grandchildren every day, farming and raising chickens in the small garden at home, and playing chess and square dancing with the old men and women in the community when they are free, Su Qingni smiled. In fact, as long as you are attentive, many conflicts can be avoided. In Dong Rulan's previous life, if Su Se helped the families of the eldest and second brothers Su's father and mother would not have to live in his house, and the conflict between Su's father and mother and Dong Rulan could be avoided. Maybe Dong Rulan would not die at a young age in that life. Maybe Dong Rulan could live with Su Se for the rest of her life, even if there were no shortage of quarrels in life. Maybe Su Mingming would not become bad, would not be driven out of the Su family, and die in poverty. Maybe. Su Qingni entered the laboratory after returning to Beijing. This laboratory was established with her own money, without using any money from the Gong family. This is also where Gong's father admired Su Qingni. Su Qingni thought of Taiyue, the smart butler in her space, but it was a pity that this world could not take it out. So she still started with a smart butler, let black technology occupy this era, and make money for herself. After pretending to do it, Su Qingni took out a method of making the smart butler a year later. She naturally cooperated with the Gong family's group. She provided the technology and didn't care about anything else, holding 40% of the shares. When Mr. Gong saw the smart housekeeper, he was overjoyed and praised his daughter for her good vision in finding a treasure. Gong Lilan, who had already started working at the Gong family company, rolled her eyes when she heard this. Was her father too happy? But her father was right. She did find a treasure. I really want to make fun of Dong Rulan. How stupid is this woman to kick such a treasure away? The two father and daughter immediately set up a technology company, opened a factory, and put the finished products on the shelves. A series of things went very smoothly, and the government department gave the Gong family company a green light. At first, Mr. Gong thought it was his own connections that played a role, but later he vaguely discovered that the country had intervened to protect the Gong family. Mr. Gong was stunned. Why would the country treat the Gong family so courteously? Mr. Gong was a little uneasy, which made Mother Gong and Gong Lilan uneasy. Su Qingni came out of the office and found the atmosphere of the Gong family. She couldn't help asking in confusion. Mr. Gong expressed his concerns. Su Qingni smiled and told Father Gong to accept the country's goodwill with peace of mind. Father Gong asked why. Su Qingni told Father Su that she had designed a more intelligent system for the country and gave the country a lot of methods for making new materials. Of course, the country would give Su Qingni a return. Father Gong was happy to hear this and sighed that this son-in-law was a good choice. Gong Lilan whispered to express her gratitude to Su Qingni, saying that her family had taken advantage of Su Qingni. You know, although she and Su Qingni are husband and wife in the household registration book, they have never done anything as husband and wife. The two of them are just living together now, and each is independent. And in the eyes of outsiders, Su Qingni took advantage of marrying Gong Lilan, the rich second-generation lady. But in fact, all of Su Qingni's expenses were earned by his own ability. Not only did he not take advantage of the Gong family, but the Gong family took advantage of him. Gong Lilan felt that the luckiest thing in her life was to meet her lover Xu Yunji and the good man Su Qingni. Especially Su Qingni. If she had not met Xu Yunji in the United States, she would have accidentally miscarried her lover's child. Without Su Qingni's careful care, it would be impossible for the child to grow up and be born healthily. Su Qingni is the benefactor of her and her child. Later, the child changed back to her lover's surname, and she also wanted the child to be filial to Su Qingni, the adoptive father. The launch of the Smart Housekeeper immediately became popular, and the Gong family's company took it to the next level. Su Qingni also became a millionaire with dividends. She helped other people in the Su family to the best of her ability, and the eldest and second brothers Su and their wives also worked hard to run the local restaurant better and better, and finally became the benchmark of the catering industry in that city. The economic conditions of the two families are getting better and better. They don't need Su Qingni to support them financially, and they have bought several more houses with their own efforts. Their children are also very motivated, studying hard, and aiming at their uncle. In the end, all 4 children were admitted to key universities, and found good jobs after graduation, with a bright future. Su's parents' health was damaged due to years of hard work, but now they live a comfortable life and dance in the square every day. They are in good health and can probably live another 10 years. After the launch of the Smart Housekeeper, Su Qingni successively researched and developed 2 transportation tools that changed the world's transportation pattern: flying motorcycles and flying cars. Many countries in the world have revised their traffic laws because of the emergence of flying cars. Su Qingni secretly contributed to the country in the research of these 2 black technologies and helped the country develop manned spacecraft. Chapter 907 I am the Phoenix Man's Eye. 15 years have passed in the blink of an eye, and Dong Rulan has become a graceful middle-aged woman. However, she has maintained herself well, and there is almost no trace of time on her figure and face. She looks more than 10 years younger than her actual age. Dong Rulan has lived a comfortable life these years. Perhaps the reborn girl should be the protagonist of this world. Dong Rulan should have the aura of the protagonist, so that she can do everything smoothly except for the matter of fighting against Su Qingni. After divorcing Su Qingni, Dong Rulan entered the Dong family company and began to study and work. The heroine's light protects Dong Rulan's learning ability, and she quickly got the hang of the company's affairs. Father Dong is very satisfied with his daughter's ability and is sure that his daughter is his heir, and the company does not need to be handed over to outsiders. In the future, the granddaughter, not the granddaughter, after all, has changed her surname to Dong, and is a member of their Dong family, and has nothing to do with the Su family. When it is handed over to the granddaughter in the future, the Dong family's company will always be named Dong and will be passed down, and it will not be cheap to outsiders. Dong Rulan spent 2 years mastering all the affairs of the company and became the general manager of the company. She was called a strong woman. Seeing Dong Rulan's ability, many families wanted to marry with the Dong family and let their sons marry Dong Rulan. In the future, their wives will be capable, and their sons will not have to worry about their lives. For this reason, they didn't care that Dong Rulan had been married once and even had a daughter. Dong Rulan looked down on those dudes because of her experience in her previous life. Dong Rulan was disappointed with marriage and didn't think about getting married again. But love can't be stopped. Dong Rulan met a young and promising President Su Qingni when she attended a business party. This Su Qingni seems to be the male protagonist. His acquaintance with Dong Rulan can be regarded as full of drama. Su Qingni used to pretend to be a poor boy and talk to a girlfriend. Later, his girlfriend despised him for being poor and ran away. After Su Qingni returned home, the girlfriend finally knew what she had missed and was ashamed. This woman thought that she was beautiful and Su Qingni would definitely have feelings for her, so she wanted to go back to her ex-girlfriend and came to see Su Qingni every few days. However, Su Qingni saw through his girlfriend's nature and was fed up with her. Seeing that Su Qingni did not accept her, the girlfriend began to pester him. And her best friend was also a poisonous best friend. She had her own calculations in her heart and wanted to get close to Su Qingni through her girlfriend. In addition, Su Qingni was excellent and good at looking, and many people liked him. The daughter of a rich man who heard that he was entangled with his ex-girlfriend could not sit still and also came to entangle Su Qingni. Su Qingni was entangled by several women and had no choice but to meet Dong Rulan passing by. Because the two met at a business party, Su Qingni had a very good impression of Dong Rulan, so he pulled Dong Rulan over to take the blame. He said that he likes strong women like Dong Rulan. After the other women knew Dong Rulan's identity, they felt that their wealth was not as good as Dong Rulan, and left unwillingly. After this incident, Su Qingni invited Dong Rulan to a meal to thank her and apologized to her. Dong Rulan had a deep impression of Su Qingni because of this incident. Later, Su Qingni accidentally took the medicine given by his ex-girlfriend. He did not follow his ex-girlfriend's plan to have sex with her, but met Dong Rulan who was also in the plan, and the two rolled together. After this incident, Su Qingni fell in love with Dong Rulan and began to pursue her. Dong Rulan's feelings for Su Qingni were different from those for other men, but she was afraid of marriage and didn't know whether she should accept Su Qingni's pursuit. However, after that sex, Dong Rulan became pregnant. With a baby in her belly, Dong Rulan's heart softened. In addition, she also liked Su Qingni, so she accepted Su Qingni. After the two got married, Su Qingni treated Su Mingming very well, and Su Mingming also liked him as a stepfather. Dong Rulan gave birth to her son Su Mingyan after 10 months of pregnancy. The two companies are controlled by the husband and wife respectively. They have never thought of merging the companies together, and they have also agreed that the companies will be inherited by their son and daughter respectively in the future, and no one will grab each other's things. Dong's father and mother are very satisfied with Su Qingni as their son-in-law, and Dong's father is even more satisfied that Su Qingni has no covetousness for his own company. Seeing that his daughter is now capable of managing the company, Dong's father retired and handed the Dong family company to Dong Rulan. Since then, he has lived a leisurely life with his wife, traveling, cultivating his body and mind, and staying healthy. After more than 10 years, Dong Rulan feels that she is dreaming. This life is too happy, so happy that she feels a little unreal. Today is the day for her daughter to go to college. Her beloved daughter lives up to her teachings and is admitted to the largest university in Beijing. Today, the whole family sent Su Mingming to the university to register. Dong's father and mother, who were originally traveling abroad, also came back specially to send their granddaughter to the university to register. Dong Rulan looked at her graceful daughter, and then saw her parents who were healthy and alive, and felt that she was right to kick Su Se away when she was reborn. how excellent her daughter is now. Not only is she well behaved, but she also has very good grades. She can also play the piano and dance, and is multi-talented. She is nothing like the daughter who was full of hostility in the previous life. It was because Su Se didn't know how to raise a child that he turned her well-behaved and lovely daughter into a bad child. When Dong Rulin thought of this, she was furious again. It's a pity that she can't find Su Qingni or the Su family now. She doesn't know where to vent her anger, so she can only hold it in her heart. I'm afraid she will get sick if she holds it in for too long. She saw Linya, and her daughter dared to come to Dong's company to apply for a job. Humph, it's good enough that she didn't die. Dong Rulin made a move, so that Linya couldn't find a job in City A, and had to leave City A sadly and go to other places to develop. Dong Rulin felt that she was kind and didn't want Linya to die, but she didn't know that her actions almost forced Linya to commit suicide. Linya's father was seriously ill and needed a large sum of money for treatment. Su Se in his previous life lent money to Linya after knowing this. Linya was very grateful to Su Se and developed feelings for him. In this life, Linya couldn't even find a job, so how could she afford to treat her father's illness? She ran around every day but was rejected. When she returned home and saw her parents' haggard and sad appearance, this girl who had just graduated almost couldn't bear it and thought about committing suicide. But the girl really couldn't let go of her parents and gave up the idea of suicide. However, Linya's luck was still good. She sold her family's house and took her parents to Jing City to seek medical treatment and job hunting, and finally joined the Gong family's company. Chapter 908 I am the Phoenix Man Zai. In this life, Linya did not wait for Su Se to save her, but waited for Gong Lilan to help. Gong Lilan admired Linya's work ability. After knowing that Linya brought her parents to Beijing for medical treatment, and the money from selling the house was not enough for medical expenses, she lent Linya a large sum of money to treat her father. In order to give Lin's father a good environment to recuperate, Gong Lilan also lent a small apartment under her name to the Lin family to live in, so that they could move out of the damp and dim basement. This approach has won the favor of the Lin family. Not to mention that moving out is good for Lin's father's recovery. Even after Lin's mother moved out of the basement, the rheumatism on her legs has improved a lot, and she will not be so painful that she can't sleep at night. Linya regards Gong Lilan as a benefactor who will be repaid for a lifetime. She couldn't help Gong Rulin in other places, so she worked very hard, hoping to help Gong Lilan at work again. Gong Lilan was even more satisfied with Linya's gratitude, and cultivated her as her confidant. What Gong Rulin didn't know was that Linya was now a well-known strong woman in the Beijing circle. She was also happily married to an officer and had a naughty but cute son. It just so happened that the officer's surname was also Su, and their son's name was Su Mingtao. Dong Rulin followed her daughter to register and went to her daughter's dormitory to take a look. After that, the family played in the century-old prestigious school and took photos. Several senior students walked past them, and the names they said entered Dong Rulin's ears. Really? Professor Su Se is coming to our school to give a lecture. Of course it's true. Inside information, the time is set in a week. Great, I must go to listen to Professor Su's lecture. I'll go too. Professor Su is so amazing. He actually developed so many good things. He is really a genius. The most important thing is that Professor Su is still so young and looks so handsome. Dong Rulin frowned, and then relaxed. It should be someone with the same name and surname. There are too many people named Su Se in the country. Why should she be so sensitive? Besides, the Professor Su mentioned by the students is a scientist, while the Su Se she knew was actually studying economics and management, so their majors were completely unrelated. How could Su Se be inferior to Professor Su? He was not even worthy of carrying Professor Su's shoes. Although thinking so, Dong Rulin still felt uncomfortable. Mom, come quickly, the scenery here is great, take a picture with me. Su Mingming called Dong Rulin. Hearing her daughter's call, Dong Rulin put aside her discomfort and took a picture with her daughter with a smile. A month later, Su Mingming finished her military training and went home to rest. Sitting in the living room, Su Mingming was browsing the school forum with her mobile phone. Dong Rulin came over with a fruit plate and asked her daughter casually, "What are you looking at?" "Looking at Professor Su." Su Mingming said in an amazed tone, "This Professor Su is amazing. The smart housekeeper and flying car were invented by Professor Su. Professor Su also participated in the development of spacecraft and mecha. He has now been admitted to the Chinese Academy of Sciences and has become the youngest academician. And Professor Su is so handsome. He is in his 40s, but he looks like he is in his 30s. Hey, this professor went to university in our city A, and he is your schoolmate, Mom. Mom, do you know Professor Su? Dong Rulan's face changed when she heard the last sentence. His name is Su Set. He is the only one who went to the same university and class as her. How is it possible? How is it possible? Dong Rulan snatched the phone from her daughter's hand. Su Mingming wanted to protest when her phone was taken away, but seeing that her mother looked bad, she shrugged and accepted it. She turned on the TV and the forum said that the national TV station would broadcast an interview program with Professor Su today. Dong Rulan looked at the introduction of Su Se on the forum post, and her face became worse and worse, until she turned to the end of the post and saw the photo on it. When the familiar face came into her eyes, Dong Rulan's face was extremely ugly. It was indeed that scumbag Su Se. How could he become a scientist? Did he study economics and management? Why did he change his career? He actually went abroad to study mechanical engineering and was found to be a genius in mechanical engineering? How could he be so capable? Dong Rulan thought that Su Se would live a very miserable life after being kicked out by her. She always believed that Su Se had achieved such success in his previous life because of herself and the Dong family. Without the Dong family as a stepping stone for him in this life, Su Se would definitely not have achieved anything. At most, he would have lived his life in a muddle like ordinary people. Who would have thought that without her and the Dong family, Su Se would have achieved greater success than in his previous life? No, it should be an achievement that could not be achieved even if he flattered in his previous life. Doesn't this mean that Su Se was originally very good, and it was the Dong family that limited Su Se's future in his previous life? Doesn't this mean that she has no vision, mistook pearls for fish eyes, and drove people away? A familiar voice came from the TV. Dong Rulan raised her head and a familiar face came into her eyes. It was Su Se. She would recognize him even if he turned into ashes. Dong Rulan gritted her teeth, stared at the person on TV, and listened to the voice coming from the TV. This program interviewed Su Se and his wife Gong Lilan. Gong Lilan is the helmsman of the Gong family group, which is much larger than the Dong family company. The two companies cannot be compared together. Naturally, Dong Rulan, the chairman of the Dong family company, is far inferior to the helmsman of the Gong family group. I didn't expect Su Se to still be a phoenix man. Without her, Dong Rulan has Gong Lilan. But why did she, Dong Rulan, follow Su Se and suffer such a miserable experience in her previous life? But Gong Lilan was so happy. Not only did the Gong family group not get embezzled by Su Se, but she could also benefit from Su Se. Smart butlers and flying cars are both the flagship products of the Gong family group. The anger in Dong Rulan's heart was burning more and more. She hated Su Se and was jealous of Gong Lilan. The anger had burned Dong Rulan's reason. She suddenly threw the mobile phone in her hand at the TV screen, wanting to hit a man in the face. The TV screen was cracked. This was because the quality of the TV was good, otherwise the screen would be smashed and exploded, and Dong Rulan and Su Mingming would be hurt. Mom, what's wrong with you? Su Mingming stared at Dong Rulan in disbelief. Is such a hysterical woman your elegant and noble mother? Dong Rulan couldn't listen to her daughter's words. She kept shouting impossible, impossible, rushed into her room, and locked herself in the room. Su Mingming worriedly called Su Qingni and Dong's father and mother. Su Qingni was worried about his wife and rushed back. After asking about what happened, he fell silent. Chapter 909 I Am Phoenix Man 13. Su Qingni knew the name of his wife's ex-husband. Although he was not a stingy man, he still cared about his wife's ex-husband. In fact, he knew about Su Se's affairs 2 years ago. But he didn't tell Dong Rulan because he was afraid that his wife was still thinking about this ex-husband. Although it was his wife who took the initiative to divorce her ex-husband and never mentioned her ex-husband, he was the first man his wife liked after all, and Su Qingni was worried that his wife still had feelings for him. Now it seems that this is indeed the case, otherwise how could his wife become like this after seeing the report about Su Se and lock herself up? Su Qingni felt uncomfortable, and his relationship with Dong Rulan had a rift because of this incident. Dong's father and mother knew why Dong Rulan was like this. Their daughter was arrogant and would never think that she had done anything wrong. But now the facts are in front of them, proving that Dong Rulan abandoned the most promising golden baby and even wanted her life. I just don't know if Su Se holds a grudge and will come back to retaliate against Dong Rulan and the Dong family. Dong's father regretted it a little. If he had known that Su Se had such ability and prospects, he should not have listened to his daughter and offended Su Se to death. In fact, after so many years, he sometimes doubted whether his daughter was really reborn, or whether she took a nightmare as reality. Otherwise, why did things that happened in the following years differ from what his daughter said about what happened before she was reborn? Father Dong didn't know that some things were due to the butterfly effect. Moreover, Dong Rulan's attention in her previous life was all on the Su family and her daughter. She didn't pay much attention to national and international affairs, and she couldn't say them in this life. And the things that can be said are all things that happen nearby, mostly in the upper circles of City A in this life. Su Se is no longer in City A, and Dong Rulan has entered the upper circles of City A. This is the biggest butterfly effect. Father Dong is very worried that Su Se will come back to retaliate against them. Su Se is no longer a poor boy with no background, no connections, and nothing. He is now a person protected by the father of the country. If Su Se said that he wanted to thoroughly investigate the murder of him, with the power of the country, he would definitely be found out. Thinking that he would have to sing tears behind bars at his age, Dong's father almost had a stroke. Fortunately, Su Qingni had never thought of revenge on the Dong family. She had long forgotten the Dong family and Dong Rulan. Dong's father was worried for a while, and realized that Su Se would not retaliate against them. If he wanted to retaliate, he would have done it long ago. Dong's father was relieved. However, because of the fear in the past few days, his body was affected and his health index dropped sharply. 5 years later, Dong's father left this world. Half a year later, Dong's mother also passed away. Dong Rulan knew the reason why Dong's father's health deteriorated, and she felt guilty towards her parents. In addition, her husband and daughter left her. Su Qingni and Su Mingming did not believe in rebirth, which made Dong Rulan speechless. Dong Rulan's life was very depressed in the future, and finally died of depression like her father, in her 50s. This can be said to be an early death in modern times, with an average life expectancy of more than 70 years old. Su Mingming ran to Su Qingni excitedly after knowing that she was Su Se's biological daughter. Su Qingni only met her once, but had no intention of recognizing her. Su Mingming felt aggrieved, and seeing that Su Qingni was so good to her son, she thought that he favored boys over girls, and complained to Dong Rulan after returning home. Dong Rulan naturally echoed Su Mingming's statement, and complained that Su's mother favored boys over girls, saying that after she gave birth to Su Mingming, Su's mother had never given her a good face. Su Mingming complained about Su Qingni and Su's mother because of this. Later, Su Mingming accidentally learned the truth from Dong's mother, and knew that Dong Rulan took the initiative to divorce Su Qingni because of the so-called past life and present life, and also persuaded Dong's father to take action against Su Qingni and wanted to kill Su Qingni, but Su Qingni was lucky and escaped. Since then, Su Mingming understood why Su Qingni didn't want to have more contact with her. Because she has Dong Rulan as a mother. If she were Su Qingni, she would not want to contact the granddaughter and daughter of the person who wanted to kill her. Su Mingming blamed Dong Rulan for this, and his relationship with her gradually deteriorated. Later, Su Mingming got married and left home. She only went home to visit Dong Rulan every once in a while, and the relationship between them became weaker. Su Mingming did not join the Dong family company. She entered the entertainment industry and became a big star. The Su family's company was eventually inherited by Dong Rulan's youngest son. She gave birth to 2 sons for Su Qingni, just one son inherited a company. In the end, the Dong family's company was still named Su. Both Su's father and mother lived to be over 80 years old and died of old age. After the two died, Su Qingni and Dong Rulan called their son in front of them, told him about his biological father, and asked him to change his biological father's surname back. The son was very grateful to Su Qingni, his adoptive father, and respected her very much. After getting married, his son's wife gave birth to 2 grandsons. The son gave them one surname Shu and one surname Su. Su Qingni did not stay in this world for too long. Only 3 years after Su's father and mother passed away, Su Qingni chose to leave this world. Gong Lilan was quite long-lived. She felt that she was really happy in this life. She once had a dream. In her dream, she did not meet Su Qingni, and her son miscarried without her knowing. Gong Lilan was heartbroken and had not come out of it. She was almost mentally ill. And because of the damage caused by the miscarriage, it was difficult for Gong Lilan to have children. Later, in order to find someone to take care of her, Gong's father and mother recruited an honest man as a son-in-law. It was agreed that they would go abroad to get a test tube baby in 2 years. But the man was only honest on the surface, but he was actually very black-hearted. Guang's father and mother were secretly killed by that man, and then less than a year later, Guang Lilan was also killed by that man. That man used Guang Lilan's husband's identity to get all the property of the Guang family. Fortunately, the two had not gone abroad to have children, otherwise the child with the blood of the Guang family would definitely live a miserable life. After the man got the property of the Guang family, he took the mistress and the child born by the mistress home. It turned out that he had a lover. It was the lover's idea to approach the Guang family and become the Guang family's son-in-law. Unfortunately, this man is a fool in business. He only knows how to plot and scheme. His vision is too narrow, and he can't bear the responsibility of being the helmsman of a multinational group. What makes Gong Rulan happy is that the person who took over the Gong family group after this man defeated it was Su Sen. That man is no match for Su Sen. In his previous life, Su Sen did not engage in mechanical research, but was invincible in the business world and swallowed up the Gong family group. Is this Su Sen's indirect revenge for himself? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 910 Entertainment First. After Su Qingni returned to the witch world, she received an invitation from the Nine Heavens mysterious lady. She finally came out of retreat and successfully promoted to a quasi-saint, and a celebration banquet was to be held. Su Qingni prepared a gift and went to the prehistoric world on the day of the banquet. Many gods and immortals came to attend the celebration banquet of the Nine Heavens mysterious lady. They asked how the Nine Heavens mysterious lady could be promoted, and finally asked them to find out the method of crossing. Immediately, these gods and immortals began to think about how to cross. Unfortunately, their strength could not be compared with great gods like Su Qingni, nor did they have a magic weapon like the Kunlun mirror that could cross time and space, nor did they have the cultivation method that Dong Huangtai had. There were many dangers in the chaotic time and space, and there really had no way to go to other worlds to plan merits for a while. However, there are still some among these gods and immortals who know a lot about the laws of time and space. For example, there is a fairy named Yaokeo in the witch clan, and this fairy's control over the laws of time and space is not inferior to that of Dijiang. You must know that Dijiang is a quasi-saint level existence, while this fairy Yaokeo has just entered the realm of Dalhuo Jingxin. This Yaokeo fairy refined 2 reincarnation beads and took her through time and space to different worlds. Later, Yaokeo fairy returned to the Lich world and was promoted to quasi-saint. Her 2 reincarnation beads were lost in different worlds, waiting for their destined people. Su Qingni made a special trip to meet Yaokeo fairy and discussed the laws of time and space with her. Su Qingni benefited a lot from this. With the help of Yaokeo fairy, Su Qingni made a magic weapon that can travel through time and space. Su Qingni made a setting for this magic weapon with evil taste and named it Game System. Su Qingni threw this magic weapon into the chaotic time and space with evil taste again, letting the magic weapon drift with the waves to find its owner. Su Qingni didn't know how much surprise this casual action brought to herself. I am the dividing line of crossing again. As soon as Su Qingni was possessed, she was filled with water in her mouth and her nose was also filled with water. She hurriedly paddled her little hands and feet and jumped up desperately. The original body was drowned. If she didn't work harder, her journey through this world would soon end. Finally reaching the surface of the water, Su Qingni had almost exhausted all her strength. She only retained a trace of strength to keep herself afloat. Su Qingni spit out the water that had already been poured into her stomach. She lay on her back, and it looked like the water was coming out of her mouth by itself. This made everyone else think that she was not far from death. Although those who were still struggling to swim in the water sympathized with Su Qingni, a little child who was about to die, no one reached out to help Su Qingni. There was no way. There was still some distance from the shore. Their physical strength was almost exhausted. It was still unknown whether they could swim to the shore. How could they waste their physical strength to save a child who had no relatives or friends? It was not that these people were indifferent, but that reality forced them. Su Qingni rested for a while, and then took the time to start practicing the exercises, so that she could be clean and have a little more protection and hope to survive. At this moment, a hand reached out, grabbed Su Qingni's arm, and swam to the shore with her small body. Su Qingni blinked her eyes and knew who the person who helped her was from the memory of the original body. She didn't expect that it was such a person who helped her. The original owner was a 7-year-old child. Since birth, the original owner had no father. It is said that her biological father married the daughter of a rich and powerful family after returning to the city and abandoned the original owner's mother. Although the original owner's mother and biological father seemed to be a couple in the village, they did not have a marriage certificate. The biological father abandoned the biological mother, and the biological mother had no way to do anything. The biological mother was already pregnant at that time. Because of the sadness and grief during pregnancy, she did not take good care of the fetus and caused a dystocia. She gave up and left the original body. The grandparents did not like the original body very much because of the death of their daughter and the ungrateful behavior of the original body's father. Although they raised the original body, they ignored the original body and only ensured that the original body would not starve to death. When the original body was 6 years old, the grandparents passed away, and she had to live with her uncle and aunt. My aunt didn't care about my original body at all. She thought that I was just eating for free, as if she didn't see how busy I was. My original body was only 6 or 7 years old, but she had to do a lot of work every day, but she didn't eat too much, so that the little girl looked like a 4 or 5-year-old child even though she was 7 years old. Some time ago, my aunt heard that a family wanted to buy a daughter-in-law for their seriously ill son. My aunt was thinking about the generous reward given by the family, so she wanted to sell my original body to that family as a daughter-in-law. Anyway, that family didn't say how old the girl needed was. My original body didn't care whether it was a child bride for a sickly child, but later, she secretly overheard the conversation between the parents of the sickly child's family and knew that the mother was superstitious. She was afraid that her son would die without a daughter-in-law, which would not be considered as the head of the family, and that he would be laughed at and looked down upon in the underworld, and would suffer in the underworld, so she bought a child bride. But their family had spent most of their savings to buy this child bride. If their son died, they certainly didn't want to continue to raise a child bride. The mother was a black-hearted person. She thought that after her son died, the child bride would be fed rat poison and let the child bride accompany her son on the road. She said that the child was sad and his body was not good, and he died of illness. The original body was frightened at the time. She didn't want to die, so she ran out on the middle of the night. She didn't go back to her uncle's house. She knew that after she went back, she would be sent back to the sickly house by her aunt, and her aunt would not care about her life or death. The original body kept running, and met a group of people who wanted to sneak to Hong Kong Island on the road. The original body heard about Hong Kong Island from the gossip of the village women. It was said that it was a place full of gold. As long as you can successfully reach there, you will be able to become a rich person in the future, wear beautiful clothes every day, eat delicious food, and eat a full stomach. The original body was full of yearning for Hong Kong Island, so he joined this team. This team went down into the water in the middle of the night and swam towards the other side of the water. The original body had been following them, but unfortunately the child was young and did not have enough strength. In addition, she had been living on wild grass on the roadside and stealing sweet potatoes from other people's fields these days. She had not had enough food, and her strength was even less. The original body did not hold on until she swam to the other side. She drowned because she had no strength before she swam even half the distance, and her body was left to Su Qingni. As for the one who is now holding the original body, it is a second-rate guy from the same village as the original body, named Niangniang Pingxin. He's a well-known gangster in the village and the surrounding area, and has a very bad reputation. He is in his 20s, and no woman is willing to marry him. You know, young people in the village get married very early, and they go on blind dates and get married at the age of 17 or 18. Chapter 911 Entertainment First Part 2. Influenced by the villagers, in the original body's mind, second-rate people are bad people. Every time she saw Niangniang Pingxin, she would take a detour. If she couldn't get around, she would run away immediately. Sometimes Niangniang Pingxin wanted to talk to the little girl, and the little girl turned around and ran away without saying a word. Niangniang Pingxin was left staring at the little girl's back helplessly. The little girl didn't notice, but Su Qingni saw from the little girl's memory that every time Niangniang Pingxin called the little girl, he had food in his hands. Niangniang Pingxin wanted to be nice to the little girl. Why? The little girl couldn't think of it, but Su Qingni had an idea. Maybe it was because of the original body's biological mother. You know, the original body's biological mother is only 1 year older than Zhang Jingxin. The two grew up in the same village. They are childhood sweethearts, right? It should be common for childhood sweethearts to fall in love with childhood sweethearts, right? Unfortunately, the original body's biological mother is dead. I think Zhang Jingxin, the person involved, won't say it out loud. These running thoughts only lasted for a moment, and Su Qingni immediately gathered them together, calmed down and practiced quickly. There is still a long way to go. Although Zhang Jingxin's physical strength is better than that of ordinary people, it is probably impossible for him to swim to the other side with a burden. If Su Qingni does not quickly cultivate her internal strength, I am afraid that both of them will die in the water. Zhang Jingxin swam forward with all his strength. He had only one thought in his mind, that he must live, try to live, and live with the little girl beside him. He could not give up the little girl. This little girl was the child left by the woman he liked. He would cherish this little girl as if she were his own daughter. He would not give up his life either. He had not lived enough and had not lived a good life of wealth. How could he die? However, some things cannot be achieved with your firm will. Human power is sometimes limited. Zhang Jingxin is just an ordinary person with no internal strength and no other abilities. He has exhausted all his strength, but he only swam 3/4. In fact, if he did not take the little girl with him, he could swim to the other side alone. Zhang Jingxin looked at the other side, which was not far away, with unwillingness in his eyes, and let the sea swallow him. Just when he thought he was going to drown, he was suddenly pulled out of the water with great force. Zhang Jingxin looked at the little girl who was dragging him to the shore in astonishment, speechless. He was actually saved by this little girl. So, the little girl was so strong? She could actually swim with a grown man like him? It was incredible. Su Qingni did not look back to see Zhang Jingxin's reaction, and swam while saying quickly, "Take advantage of this moment to quickly recover some strength. Although I have recovered some physical strength, it is not enough to support us to swim to the other side. The last bit of the journey still depends on your own efforts." Oh. Zhang Jingxin agreed in a daze, but still began to recover his physical strength according to Su Qingni's words. This is a matter of life and death. If you have any questions, wait until you reach the other side. Su Qingni consumed the internal force she had just cultivated. She was doing two things at the same time, swimming while cultivating to replenish the consumption. However, in order not to be too shocking, it is necessary to show weakness appropriately. After calculating that the remaining distance would allow Zhang Jingxin to swim to the shore with the little strength he had recovered, he pretended that he didn't have enough strength and let go of Zhang Jingxin's hand. Zhang Jingxin had recovered a little strength at this time, and found that his arm had been released by Su Qingni's little hand. He quickly grabbed Su Qingni's little arm with his backhand, and swam towards the shore with the strength he had just recovered. There was only a little distance left, and he would definitely be able to swim and successfully reach the other side. Finally, Zhang Jingxin brought Su Qingni ashore. As soon as he got ashore, Zhang Jingxin collapsed on the beach and gasped for breath, and he couldn't get up for a while. Su Qingni also lay on the beach, seizing the time to continue practicing. The original body thought that Hong Kong Island was a golden island and a paradise, but Su Qingni, who had stayed in Hong Kong Island for several worlds, knew that this was not a paradise, and it was very xenophobic. If you want to survive here, you must have strong abilities. Su Qingni thought of the world that Tai had left early, where she lived like a fish in water in the most chaotic slums. Perhaps, in this world, she could follow the old path of the previous world. People came ashore one after another. However, there were very few people who came ashore, less than a quarter of the number of people who went into the water. 3/4 of the people did not swim over, and all stayed in the sea and became food for the creatures in the sea. Su Qingni finished a big cycle and saw that the sky was already bright. Everyone on the beach fell asleep, they were really tired. Su Qingni stood up. Although the movement was small, it woke Zhang Jingxin up. This man was very alert even when he was asleep. "Where are you going?" Zhang Jingxin asked nervously, struggling to get up. Su Qingni quickly stopped him and said, "You haven't recovered yet, take a rest. I'll go get something to eat. Don't worry." Zhang Jingxin lay down again after hearing this and told Su Qingni, "Don't run too far, look nearby." "Okay." Su Qingni responded and ran towards the bushes in the distance. She had just seen clearly from a distance that there were several pandanus trees there. The fruit of the pandanus tree looks very much like a pineapple, so it is also called a wild pineapple. Wild pineapples are edible and have medicinal value. They are very nutritious. Su Qingni ran over, picked a few pandanus fruits, ran back and handed them to Zhang Jingxin. This kind of pandanus fruit is not uncommon on the beach. Zhang Jingxin knew it, so he took the fruit, peeled it and started eating. He was very hungry and thirsty. After eating 2 wild pineapples, Zhang Jingxin sighed with satisfaction and said to the little girl who was still biting the fruit, "Little girl, follow me from now on. I will take care of you and you will be my daughter." Su Qingni paused while eating, thought about it, and nodded in agreement. "Okay, Dad." She looked too young, and it was inconvenient for her to set up for many things. It would be nice to follow a reliable adult. Although Zhang Jingxin looked like a jerk, from her short contact with him, she could tell that he was not a bad guy, but a man who valued friendship. He just looked unreliable on the surface, but he was actually a reliable person. When Zhang Jingxin heard Su Qingni call him Dad, he was stunned and his eyes turned red. Afraid that Su Qingni would see his embarrassing appearance, Zhang Jingxin turned his head, but he honestly responded to Su Qingni's address to him. He and the little girl's mother grew up together as childhood sweethearts. They had a very good relationship and had agreed to get married, but the girl's parents did not agree with their daughter marrying a gangster like him and forcefully separated them. Chapter 912 Entertainment First III. The little girl's grandparents looked down on Zhang Jingxin, a gangster. It happened that the little girl's father couldn't stand the hard work in the countryside and wanted to marry a country girl to help him share the burden, so they set their eyes on the little girl's mother. The little girl's grandparents thought that the little girl's father was gentle and educated, much better than Zhang Jingxin, a gangster, so they married their daughter to the little girl's father, breaking up the lovers. Unfortunately, their vision was too poor, and they treated the ungrateful wolf as a treasure, and eventually killed their daughter. Zhang Jingxin's initial feelings towards the little girl were very complicated. The little girl's father killed her mother, and Zhang Jingxin was angry at the little girl. But seeing that the little girl's life was worse than when he was a child, Zhang Jingxin, who had been an orphan since childhood, felt a sense of sympathy for the little girl, and his anger towards her was less, and he began to care about the little girl secretly. After all, the little girl was the only person he liked left in this world. Su Qingni pretended not to notice Zhang Jingxin's red eyes, and lowered her head to continue eating wild pineapples. Perhaps the sound of their conversations woke up the people around them, or perhaps the sun rising in the sky shone brightly into everyone's eyes, and the people on the beach woke up. When they saw Su Qingni eating wild pineapples, the first thing they did was to run to pick the fruit and eat it. After eating the fruit, they were no longer hungry and had strength. These people burst into tears, crying for their relatives who died in the sea. Zhang Jingxin had already sorted out his emotions, stood up and said to Su Qingni, "Let's go, let's leave here." He didn't think of acting with others. Although he knew some of these people, he didn't think they would be able to help him in the future. Su Qingni stood up and walked to Zhang Jingxin's side. Zhang Jingxin's big hand took Su Qingni's small hand, and the two walked away. Zhang Jingxin had never been to Hong Kong Island and didn't know where to go, so he wanted to choose the direction by throwing stones. Su Qingni twitched her lips and pulled Zhang Jingxin in one direction. Well, the terrain of Hong Kong Island in this world should not be much different from that of the Hong Kong Island in the world she had visited before. Facts have proved that there is indeed no difference. Su Qingni took Zhang Jingxin to the direction of memory, and sure enough, they saw a fishing village not long after. Zhang Jingxin is definitely a master in external communication. He knocked on the door of a family, and without saying a few words, he let the family put down their worries and led them into the house. The housewife of the family brought clean clothes to the two, let them take a bath, and prepared special meals for them. The male host went out to find a boat and took them to the city center. After getting off the boat, Zhang Jingxin took out a gold ring from somewhere and handed it to the male host. The male host was very happy to take the ring, and happily gave Zhang Jingxin a bunch of dried salted fish on the boat. Zhang Jingxin held the salted fish in one hand and pulled Su Qingni to the shore with the other. Su Qingni said, "You paid too much?" Zhang Jingxin sighed, "There's nothing I can do. I don't have any coins here, only these small things. That ring is the smallest one." Su Qingni knew that Zhang Jingxin's ancestors were landlords and gentry. She thought that their family had hidden a lot of good things before, and now they all belonged to Zhang Jingxin alone. Su Qingni said, "When I make money, I will buy more gold rings to return to you." Zhang Jingxin said, "No need. Since you call me dad, you are my daughter, and it is my duty to spend money on my daughter. You don't need to pay it back. Su Qingni said, since I am your daughter, it is my duty to be filial to you. It is also my duty for a daughter to buy gifts for her father. Zhang Jingxin laughed out loud when he heard this, and he felt very happy. He bent down and hugged Su Qingni. Good daughter, dad's good daughter. Su Qingni felt Zhang Jingxin's sincerity and good mood, and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. When Zhang Jingxin saw a policeman, he immediately stepped forward, picked out a place name, and stuffed a gold ring of almost the same size as the one he had just given to the male owner into the policeman's hand. The policeman immediately put the gold ring into his pocket, with a smile on his face like a chrysanthemum, and happily led Zhang Jingxin and Su Qingni to the door of a shop. The owner of this shop is Zhang Jingxin's relative, and in terms of seniority, he is Zhang Jingxin's cousin. He came to Gangcheng to develop early, settled down in Gangcheng, and had a small shop. However, it seems that the business of the shop is not very good, and the boss does not seem to welcome Zhang Jingxin very much. The boss still took Zhang Jingxin home. The boss's house is not small. It is on the second floor of a building, with 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms, and more than 100 square meters. Being able to buy a building to live in more than 20 years ago, it can be seen that the boss was doing well in the past. However, the boss has a large family. He has 3 sons and 2 daughters. The daughters are married, but the sons have married and have grandchildren. The whole family has more than 10 people, all squeezed into one house. You can imagine how crowded it is. Therefore, the boss's family unanimously opposed the boss to take in Zhang Jingxin and Su Qingni. The boss had a meal with Zhang Jingxin and Su Qingni at home, took them to the government department to apply for identity certificates, and then gave Zhang Jingxin a 100 yuan bill and left. Before leaving, the boss said sorry to Zhang Jingxin. His family could not take in Zhang Jingxin in this situation, so he asked Zhang Jingxin to find a place to live by himself. This 100 yuan is enough for 3 months' rent, well, the rent of the pigeon house. If you want to live in a better house, 100 yuan is not enough for 2 months' rent. Zhang Jingxin did not refuse the 100 yuan. As a gangster, he is well versed in the essence of mixing in society. After his uncle left, Zhang Jingxin put his new ID card in his pocket, took Su Qingni to a small grocery store, bought himself a pack of cigarettes, bought Su Qingni a lollipop, and chatted with the owner of the store while checking out. With Zhang Jingxin's smoothness and his talkative mouth, it didn't take long for him to get a lot of information from the store owner, including the information that you need to find a real estate agent to rent or buy a house, which real estate agent is honest and which is unreliable. Zhang Jingxin found out clearly. Although Zhang Jingxin didn't know what the profession of real estate agent was, it didn't prevent him from understanding it. He felt that if he became a real estate agent with his eloquence, he would definitely make money. Zhang Jingxin found a real estate agent named Li according to the information provided by the store owner and asked him about the house. Agent Li was indeed a very honest person. When he saw Zhang Jingxin and Su Qingni, he knew that they had just come from the inland, so he introduced them to cheap houses. Chapter 913 Entertainment First 4. Zhang Jingxin looked at several houses but was not satisfied with any of them. Most of these houses were pigeon houses, which were rooms divided into several small cubicles, and several families lived in them. And each family had more than 1 or 2 people, so when added together, there were dozens of people in one room, which was worse than living in his cousin's house. How could Zhang Jingxin like such a house? When he was in his hometown, although the house he lived in was shabby, he lived alone in a room. He was used to big houses, but he didn't like living in such a crowded place, and he didn't like being squeezed together with a group of people, with no private space. In addition to the pigeon house, other houses were not ideal. Although there were independent small rooms, they were only small rooms in one family, and he still had to share a house with other people. Zhang Jingxin frowned and asked Agent Li, "Is there no larger, independent house?" Agent Li looked at Zhang Jingxin in surprise and looked him over again. This man was dressed in ordinary clothes, and he still had a rustic look from the inside, but he was very energetic. He didn't have the timidity of people who had just arrived in Hong Kong Island. Moreover, this man was really good at speaking, even better than him, a real estate agent. Agent Li thought that if this man became a real estate agent, he would definitely become a leader in the industry and a gold medal agent. Agent Li sighed in his heart and said, "There are indeed big houses, but the rent of such houses is relatively expensive. It is better to buy a house." After that, He told Zhang Jingshan the rent of a big house and the price of buying an old house respectively, and compared them. Zhang Jingshan thought about it and said to Agent Li, "Take me to see the houses that are for sale." Agent Li was surprised. Is this a sign that you can't judge a person by his appearance? This man doesn't look like a rich man. Does he have money to buy a house? Although he doubted it, Agent Li still took Zhang Jingshan to see the house. The first few houses had their own shortcomings. They were either too old or too expensive. Zhang Jingshan took Su Qingni for a walk, but he didn't show that he was satisfied with any of the houses. He just asked Agent Li to take them to the last house. Agent Li hesitated a little. The last house is a shop. The front is the storefront, and there is a living room in the back. There is also a loft, which can also be used for living. Zhang Jingshan raised his eyebrows and said, "It sounds good. Is it because the asking price is too high?" "No, the asking price is not high, but, just what?" Zhang Jingshan asked. Agent Li said hesitantly, "The shop sells paper products and incense and candles. The owner of the shop wants to go back to his hometown to enjoy his life, so he wants to sell the shop. But these incense and candles and paper products are unlucky, so no one is willing to buy this property." Zhang Jingshan asked, "How much does this house cost?" Agent Li quoted a price and asked Zhang Jingshan in surprise, "Do you really want to buy this house? This house is always filled with incense and candles and paper products. Who knows if it will attract unclean things?" Zhang Jingshan smiled and said, "I'm not afraid of those things. Have you forgotten where I came from?" Agent Li groaned. Yes, Zhang Jingshan came from the inner world of breaking feudal superstition. People from there grew up under the red flag and never believed in the existence of gods and ghosts. This is good. They have no taboos and do not believe in the existence of dirty things. Dirt can't touch them. Agent Li took Zhang Jingshan and Su Qingni to the house. The owner of the house has returned to the countryside and entrusted the owner to Agent Li for full handling. The things in the shop were not sold out, and there were some leftovers, all piled up in the front store. When the door was opened, a gust of cold wind blew in, making Agent Li and Zhang Jingshan shiver. Agent Li's face turned pale. He always felt that there was something in the room, so he would not come here if he could avoid it. Zhang Jingshan didn't care, thinking that the room had been closed for a long time, and the room was in the shade, so the sunlight could not shine in, so it was so cold. Su Qingni saw several shadows in the room, and her mouth twitched. She stretched out her hand, grabbed those shadows in her hand, rolled them into a few small balls, and put them in her pocket. Without those shadows, the temperature in the room rose. Agent Li exclaimed in surprise. The temperature change made him think a lot, and he looked at Zhang Jingshan with inquiry and admiration. Is this person actually a master? It was because of his skills that he couldn't stay in his hometown, so he ran to the port city. Agent Li's attitude became more attentive. Zhang Jingshan had a question mark on his face. But it was good that his attitude had changed. This way, Li could lower the price of the house. Zhang Jingshan's eyes swept over the goods in the shop one by one. He was not afraid or bored. He really had no taboos. Zhang Jingshan was even happy. He didn't have to think about what to do in the future. The previous owner of the house had already thought about it for him. Zhang Jingshan took Su Qingni into the back room and took a look. The attic was above the store and was twice as large as the back room. If it was separated, it could be divided into 2 rooms. But Zhang Jingshan had no idea of redecorating. He pulled Su Qingni and said, "Qingni, this will be your territory from now on." Su Qingni showed an appropriate expression of love and said to Zhang Jingshan, "Thank you, Dad. I like it here." "I'm glad you like it." Zhang Jingshan turned to Li and said, "We bought this house." Li was happy to hear that. Because of the previous business of the house and the cold atmosphere, every time he took people to see the house could not be sold and became a slow-moving commodity. Now that it has finally been sold, he doesn't have to worry about the house being a loss to him. Agent Li is very happy. Zhang Jingshan said again, "I only have gold bars on me now. Can we pay the bill with gold bars?" This. Agent Li thought about it and nodded in agreement. Gold is a hard currency. If you take it to the bank to exchange for cash, you can get more. Agent Li took Zhang Jingshan and Su Qingni back to his office and asked them to drink tea in the office. He ran in and out to handle the procedures for the transfer of the house. Agent Li took the property certificate and handed over the money and the goods to Zhang Jingshan. Zhang Jingshan took out 3 gold bars and gave them to Agent Li. Su Qingni glanced at Zhang Jingshan's waist and knew where he had hidden the things. Zhang Jingshan noticed Su Qingni's gaze, smiled, and asked, "Little girl with sharp eyes." Su Qingni smiled and asked Zhang Jingshan, "Dad, did you wear jade?" "Of course." Zhang Jingshan said, "I brought several pieces. Jade is more valuable than gold." Chapter 914 Entertainment First 5. The two returned to the house that belonged to them from now on and began to clean up. There was everything in the house. The previous owner seemed to be rich. When he left, he only took his personal belongings and clothes. Other things, such as household items and pots and pans, were left behind. Brooms, mops and rags were naturally left behind. The two rolled up their sleeves and began to clean up their new home. Su Qingni now works all year round in this body. Although she is young, she works much more efficiently than Zhang Jingshan, who has been a gangster for many years. Most of the house was cleaned by Su Qingni. In the end, Su Qingni contracted the store in front and asked Zhang Jingshan to go out and buy quilts and sheets. Su Qingni tried to cast a cleaning spell, and it actually worked. Although because there was not much power in the body, the range of the cleaning spell was very small. It still depends on manual cleaning. Su Qingni sighed, picked up the rag and moved quickly. After cleaning the entire store, Su Qingni took out the cinnabar sold in the store and drew runes on several corners of the store. With these runes, those ghost brothers will never enter the store. Su Qingni went to Zhang Jingshan's room at the back and drew runes, and then to the attic. Calculating that Zhang Jingshan would be back soon, Su Qingni put away the used cinnabar brush and hid it under her bed. Zhang Jingshan held 2 quilts and 2 sheets, and carried 2 rolled-up straw mattresses on his back, and kicked the door with his feet. Su Qingni opened the door and let Zhang Jingshan in. The two made the bed again. The quilt and sheets smelled of sunshine, making people feel very comfortable lying on the bed. Zhang Jingshan called Su Qingni from the attic and wanted to take her out for dinner. Rice, flour, oil and other things have not been bought yet, so they can only eat outside today. Thanks to the 100 yuan given by the cousin uncle, although it is not much, it is enough for them to buy all the daily necessities in life for half a month. The two came to a noodle shop. This noodle shop is just to the left of their house and is their neighbor. The boss's surname is Jin, known as Uncle Jin San, and he is in his 40s. He rolled out the noodles himself, so they were very chewy. The noodle soup was also very good, made by Aunt Jin San. Because their noodles were delicious, many people nearby were willing to come to eat noodles, so the business was quite good. Hearing that Zhang Jingshan and Su Qingni were their new neighbors and bought the original incense and candle shop, both of them showed sympathy in their eyes. Aunt Jin-san even gave Su Qingni an extra egg. Zhang Jingshan. Su Qingni knew why the two sympathized with him. Those ghost brothers who ran to the incense and candle shop to eat incense and candles always made some noise, and those who lived nearby might hear it. Especially the ghost brothers were active at night, and when it was late at night and there were no people, the noise would seem even louder, and more people would hear it. Isn't it clear what kind of rumors would spread? People here believe in the existence of gods and ghosts. Is this also the main reason why this house has not been sold? Anyone who is a local should have heard this rumor. Zhang Jingshan asked blankly, "Why do you have such expressions? What's wrong with that house?" "It's very wrong." Shu Sheng, who worked as a waiter in a noodle shop, came up to Zhang Jingshan and said mysteriously, "There is that thing in that house. Brother, if you still have money, move out quickly. Human life is much more important than a house." Zhang Jingshan was blankly, "That thing." Shu Sheng, "It's a good brother." Zhang Jingshan was still blankly. No one in his hometown knew what a good brother meant. Shu Sheng complained that this person was a bumpkin in his heart, and continued to explain to Zhang Jingshan, "It's a ghost." Zhang Jingshan suddenly realized, and then laughed, "Where are there ghosts in the world? They are just legends." "It's not a legend, it's true." Shu Sheng said, "People who live nearby have heard noises coming from your house in the middle of the night. At that time, Uncle Jia's family had moved away, and there was no one living in the house. How could there be noises? It must be caused by ghosts." Zhang Jingshan didn't believe in the existence of ghosts and the like, and heard it. Maybe it was a thief who sneaked in to steal things and made the noise. There are thieves in their hometown, let alone this place in Gansheng. It's not a thief. The thieves around here know that your house was originally Uncle Jia's, and they know what the shop sells. How could they go in and steal things? Shu Sheng said. Zhang Jingshan, maybe it was a thief who came from other places. Anyway, he didn't believe in ghosts. Shu Sheng wanted to say something, but was stopped by Aunt Jin. If people don't believe it, it's useless for them to persuade them. Let's wait until he experiences it himself. After eating noodles, Zhang Jingxin took Su Qingni home. On the way, he joked with Su Qingni, "Others say there are ghosts in our house. Are you afraid?" Su Qingni burped. Finally, she had a full meal. Whether it was her original body or her during the time she came, she had never eaten a full meal, nor had she eaten such delicious noodles. Today, Su Qingni ate too much. She ate a big bowl of noodles and drank all the noodle soup. Her stomach was already swollen. "Don't be afraid." Su Qingni burped 3 times in a row and said, "There are no ghosts in the world." Zhang Jingxin smiled and nodded, "The people in Gangchang think differently from us." Su Qingni, "Well, they are very enthusiastic." Zhang Jingxin, "In fact, the villagers were also very enthusiastic before." Su Qingni did not respond. This topic was not suitable to continue. Zhang Jingxin brought up another topic, "Don't you like jade? I'll find a jade pendant and give it to you when I go back. You can wear it around your neck. Jade can nourish people." "Thank you, Dad." Su Qingni thanked him, but did not say that the jade pendant would be returned to Zhang Jingxin. When they got home, Zhang Jingxin really took out a jade pendant for Su Qingni. This jade pendant was not the kind of jade pendant that Su Qingni thought was bought for dozens or hundreds of dollars in modern society, but the finest white jade, and it was not small in size, half the size of a baby's fist. It can be seen that Zhang Jingxin, this cheap father, is sincere to Su Qingni. Su Qingni is grateful for Zhang Jingxin's sincerity, and naturally wants to repay Zhang Jingxin well. She will make this jade pendant into a top-notch amulet for Zhang Jingxin. After knowing that there are ghosts in this world, Su Qingni had the idea of making a talisman for Zhang Jingxin. She felt that with Zhang Jingxin's character, it was impossible not to provoke the ghost brothers. When they got home, the two cleaned up the kitchen and boiled a large pot of hot water. They took a bath and went back to their respective rooms to sleep. Zhang Jingxin really slept. Chapter 915 Entertainment First VI. In the past 2 days, Zhang Jingxin was exhausted from swimming, looking for his uncle, buying a house, and cleaning the new house. He fell asleep as soon as his head touched the pillow. Su Qingni did not sleep, but she sat on the bed and began to practice. In addition to health-preserving exercises, Su Qingni practiced a Taoist exercise to improve her magic power. After getting started with this exercise, Su Qingni took out a few small dumplings from her pocket. The little dumplings trembled. Would they be killed if they fell into the hands of this little witch? One of the little dumplings summoned up the courage to shout, "Master, spare us, we just want to steal some incense and candles, and we have never thought of hurting anyone. We are all good ghosts and have never hurt anyone." "I know," Su Qingni said. As half the master of the underworld, she can tell at a glance whether the ghosts have hurt anyone. "Then, can you let us go?" the little dumplings asked timidly. "Let you go?" Su Qingni smiled, and then immediately restrained herself. "You wish." Several dumplings all started crying at once. But ghosts don't have tears, otherwise Su Qingni's hands would have been wet with them. "Why are you crying?" Su Qingni said in a low voice. "You just want to be lonely ghosts forever, don't you want to reincarnate and be a human being again?" "We want to, too, but we don't know how to do it. We missed the black and white impermanence coming to take souls, and now we don't know how to enter the underworld." It was the brave dumpling who spoke again. "A bunch of idiots." Su Qingni was extremely helpless with these stupid ghosts, so she simply used her magic power to connect to the underworld and threw a few dumplings in. After doing all this, Su Qingni lay down and began to sleep. The next day, the two nominal father and daughter began to make large purchases. They bought all the daily necessities, as well as many other things they needed. Because of the large quantity of things they bought, Zhang Jingxin asked someone to deliver the goods to their door. The shop owners and clerks were all frightened when they heard about the delivery address. Zhang Jingxin understood what they were afraid of, and grinned and said, "I don't have that thing at home. I've stayed in it for a night, and if something bad happened, it would have happened a long time ago. Look, do I look like something's wrong?" Everyone looked at Zhang Jingxin's flushed face and shook their heads. "Zhang Jingxin, that's right, ghosts don't exist at all. You are spreading rumors and scaring yourself." Everyone, haha. The shop assistant was less afraid and moved his things back to Zhang Jingxin's place. The shop assistant saw a little girl named Su Qingni in the house. She was healthy and didn't look scared at all, so he was less afraid. "Isn't it said that children with weak fate are easily found by ghosts?" But the little girl is fine now, which means there is really no ghost in this house. The previous noise might have been caused by the thief. After the shop assistant returned to his shop, he told the shop owner Ting about this idea. There were other customers in the shop and they also heard this. Everyone began to discuss whether Zhang Jingshan had a ghost. Most people thought no, but some people who had heard the noise coming from the house in the middle of the night thought yes. As for why Zhang Jingshan and Su Qingni stayed in that house without any problem? Isn't it because Zhang Jingshan is a master? Uncle Jiu is a master. Did he have any problems when he lived there? Some people with ulterior motives heard this and had ideas in their minds. It took 3 days to clean up the house. 3 days later, Zhang Jingshan opened the shop. Since the previous owner of the house left him so many goods, how could he live up to his kindness? Selling so many goods would also be a lot of money. These days, he spent all kinds of things, and the more than 100 yuan given by his uncle had been spent. He had to go to the bank to exchange a gold bar before he could continue to buy. But he didn't plan to touch the remaining things. This time when he came out of his hometown, he didn't bring much. Except for a few gold bars and a few gold rings, the others were very valuable gadgets. These gadgets are quite collectible, and it's not worth selling them now. The neighbors and shopkeepers nearby saw Zhang Jingshan open the door to do business, doing the same business as the previous owner, Uncle Jiu, and immediately regarded him as the same person as Uncle Jiu. Not long after the door was opened, an old lady came to the door. She came to buy amulets. Zhang Jingshan blinked. Amulets? Are there such things in incense and candle shops? Shouldn't such things be bought in temples? Zhang Jingshan couldn't just say no. He asked the old lady indirectly and learned from her that amulets used to be the flagship product of the shop. The shop's owner, Uncle Jiu, was a master who could read feng shui, perform rituals, exorcise ghosts, and make amulets. The old lady praised this master as highly as she could. But for Zhang Twinxi, a staunch atheist, he thought Uncle Jiu was just an old charlatan, an old liar with very good tricks. Since the old charlatan could deceive these old men and women, why couldn't Zhang Jingshan? Isn't it just a ghost painting amulets? He could also paint them. Anyway, there was yellow paper and cinnabar in the shop. Zhang Jingshan told the old lady that he didn't have any amulets on hand, but he could paint them in the evening and asked the old lady to come back tomorrow to buy them. The old lady frowned and left. As soon as she left, Zhang Jingshan immediately started looking for yellow paper and cinnabar. Su Qingni rushed over and snatched the yellow paper and cinnabar from Zhang Jingshan, and said to him, "Dad, you watch the shop, I'll draw the talisman." "How do you know how to draw talismans?" Zhang Jingshan was surprised. Su Qingni took out a copy of Maotian talisman that she had forged at night and handed it to Zhang Jingshan. "I know it from reading this book." Zhang Jingshan thought that this book was left by Uncle Jiu. He took the Maotian talisman and flipped through it. He found some talisman drawing methods on it and couldn't help laughing. "It looks quite like that." Then he returned the book to Su Qingni. "Then you can draw it." The little girl must have regarded drawing talismans as a fun thing. He didn't know that the talismans on it were all real, and even the breathing diagram on the page on it was real. If he breathed according to this diagram, he could really cultivate magic power. It's a pity that Zhang Jingshan regarded it as a fake and discarded it like a worn-out shoe. Maybe he was not destined to be with these. This is good. People who work in this profession will be affected to some extent. Since Zhang Jingshan doesn't know, then he should never know. He should not enter this industry. Anyway, Su Qingni is here. She will protect Zhang Jingshan for the rest of his life. When life is stable, let him marry another wife. The past is the past. Chapter 916 Entertainment First 7. Su Qingni drew some talismans, most of which were amulets for peace, and some for other functions. Worried that the effect of the talismans was too amazing, Su Qingni deliberately weakened the power of the talismans. This is relatively easy to operate. As long as the runes on the talismans are slightly changed and not so standardized, the effect of the talismans will be reduced a lot. Su Qingni handed the talismans to Zhang Jingshan. Zhang Jingshan smiled and praised Su Qingni for her realistic drawings, and put the talismans on the counter. He didn't know that these talismans were real. Su Qingni sweated a little, told Zhang Jingshan that she needed to rest, and ran back to the attic, took out the jade pendant that Zhang Jingshan gave her and began to transform it. She felt that Zhang Jingshan was going to commit suicide, so she had to quickly turn the jade pendant into a protective jade pendant. Well, the protective effect on it needs to be strengthened, Otherwise it will be too low. If it loses its effect one day, Zhang Jingxin will really commit suicide. Until Zhang Jingxin called her downstairs for dinner, Su Qingni had finished 1/3 of the jade pendant. She would do the rest in the evening, and the whole jade pendant would be finished tomorrow. Speaking of which, Zhang Jingxin's cooking skills are really bad. When he was in the village, he wandered around all day and did nothing. Naturally, the food he cooked was not good. At most, it was cooked and edible. Su Qingni ate the food Zhang Jingxin made, and was silent for a long time, and said, "Leave all the cooking to me in the future. No, you are still a child, and you are only a little taller than the stove. What can you do?" Zhang Jingxin objected, "If you really want to do something, help me light the fire." Su Qingni, when I was at my uncle's house, I cooked for their family. I could stand a little higher than the stove by standing on a small stool. Zhang Jingxin still disagreed. Su Qingni finally said what was in her heart, "But Dad, the food you cooked is too bad." Zhang Jingxin also knew that his cooking was not delicious, but daughter, can't you save some face for your father? Su Qingni rolled her eyes. Can face be eaten? Is it delicious? After taking control of the kitchen from Zhang Jingxin, Su Qingni got up early the next morning to make breakfast. She cooked vegetable porridge, glutinous rice chicken, and 2 side dishes. It was a very simple breakfast, but it made Zhang Jingxin almost swallow his tongue into his stomach. "Qingni, your cooking skills are so good." Zhang Jingxin praised, but then he didn't know what he was thinking about, and said to Su Qingni with pity, "You have suffered so much over the years." Su Qingni smiled and let Zhang Jingxin think about it. After breakfast, the two opened the door of the shop. Unexpectedly, the old lady was waiting outside the door early in the morning. Seeing the door open, she immediately rushed in. That speed really didn't seem like an old man over 60 years old. "Boss, do you have the amulet?" the old lady asked. This anxious look made people guess that something bad had happened to her or her family. The above is the conclusion Zhang Jingxin came to by observing her words and expressions. Su Qingni saw the black energy on the old lady. Not much, it must have been tainted from others. Yes, I worked non-stop last night to draw a lot of amulets. I guarantee that each one is of high quality. Zhang Jingxin said as he took out the amulets from the counter. "How many do you want? How much is one?" the old lady asked. Zhang Jingxin smiled and said, "We are all neighbors, I don't make money against my conscience. I sell one at the same price as Uncle Jiu used to sell one." Hearing the words "I don't make money against my conscience," Su Qingni's mouth twitched. If it weren't for her, Zhang Jingxin would have made money against his conscience. The old lady was overjoyed when she heard this. She took out a cloth bag from her bosom, opened the cloth bag and counted out the money. "I want 7 amulets." Zhang Jingxin looked at the money the old lady took out, a total of 350 yuan, equivalent to 50 yuan for an amulet. Tisk, this is really profitable. The previous boss is really a black-hearted ghost. How could he know that Uncle Jiu used his magic power to draw the talisman, and a talisman consumed a lot of magic power, so asking for 50 yuan was cheap. Uncle Jiu was really a conscientious boss. Zhang Jingxin took out 7 talismans and gave them to the old lady, who left as if she was holding a treasure. Zhang Jingxin held a corner of the banknote in one hand and shook it, and said with a smile, "This is considered 3 years of not opening a business, and 3 years of eating after opening it. Qingni, let's not cook lunch today, let's go out to the restaurant for a good meal." Zhang Jingxin is such a person, he has no concept of saving money, and wants to spend money quickly when he has money in his hand. Su Qingni took out 100 yuan from Zhang Jingxin and said, "Dad, I will save this 100 yuan for you to marry a wife in the future." "Marry a wife?" Zhang Jingxin was stunned and sighed, "It's enough for me to have you as my daughter. I will raise you and you will help me in my old age. I don't want to get married again." "But I'm not your biological daughter, Dad. Don't you want a biological child who is related to you by blood? Don't you want the incense of the Zhang family to continue to be passed on?" "The incense of the Zhang family." Zhang Jingxin's eyes were complicated. Su Qingni continued, "Dad, my mother has been dead for many years. You should let it go." After speaking, Su Qingni returned to her attic. Zhang Jingxin was left sitting in the shop thinking about Su Qingni's words and thinking about his future. Let's talk about the old lady. The old lady's surname is Wang. There are a total of 7 people in the family. In addition to her and her husband, there are the eldest son, daughter-in-law, grandchildren, and a little daughter. Life at home was originally quite ordinary, but in recent days, her little daughter has encountered all kinds of bad luck. She was so unlucky that she could choke when drinking water and eating. It was fine in the first few days, but she was unlucky, and then she began to implicate others. Both grandchildren were injured by the little daughter. One had a broken head, and the other broke his arm. The old lady couldn't sit still. She felt that her little daughter must have provoked something unpleasant, and wanted to find a master to help her little daughter. Unfortunately, the Uncle Jiu who lived nearby had left, and the old lady couldn't find a master who could help them. Just when the old lady had nowhere to turn to, she was so anxious that she got angry and had acne. She found that the shop selling incense and candles was open. Although the boss has changed, the neighbors are speculating that the new boss is also a master. Otherwise, how can he live well in a house with ghosts? And since this boss moved into the house, there has been no noise in the middle of the night. After hearing these words, the old lady decided to try her luck and rushed to the incense and candle shop to buy a talisman, but it was not available at that time and had to wait until the next day. The old lady had no choice but to wait. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 917 Entertainment First 8. As a result, that night, the youngest daughter's bad luck escalated, and the old man in their family broke his leg. The old lady was panicked and scared. Before dawn the next day, she ran to the door of the incense and candle shop and waited for the shop to open. As soon as the shop opened, she immediately bought 7 amulets and returned home. "Mom, where did you go so early in the morning?" the eldest son asked in confusion, not even caring about his father. The old lady said, "I went to buy good things." The old lady took out a stack of amulets and took one out of it and gave it to the eldest son. "Hurry up and take it with you. It can ward off disasters and misfortunes. With this amulet, you won't be unlucky." The eldest son listened to the old lady and took the amulet and put it in his pocket. The old lady gave the amulet to her husband, daughter-in-law and 2 grandchildren, saying the same thing. These people listened to the old lady and put away the amulet obediently. The little granddaughter put away the amulet and blinked her eyes, saying, "Grandma, I feel my body has become lighter." "What do you mean?" the old lady asked without understanding. The little girl replied, "I felt like I was carrying something on my back a few days ago, and it was so heavy on my shoulders. The heavy feeling just now has disappeared, as if the thing I was carrying has been thrown off. Amitabha. This amulet is really a good thing." The old lady smiled happily when she heard it, and she was more convinced that Zhang Jingshan was a master. The eldest grandson on the side said, "Grandma, the amulet is from Taoism, right? Aren't you afraid of offending both sides by chanting Amitabha?" The old lady's smile froze, and then she drove her grandson away in anger. Go away, I'm going to find your aunt. My aunt is still sleeping in the room." The little granddaughter said, "Aunt had a nightmare last night and couldn't sleep, so she fell asleep now." The old lady felt sorry for her daughter and didn't want to disturb her daughter's sleep, so she tiptoed into her daughter's room and quietly put the amulet on her daughter. Little did she know that the little daughter was so nervous that she would wake up at the slightest noise. The little daughter opened her eyes and stared at the old lady, which frightened the old lady and made her heart pound. "Mom." After a long while, the little daughter finally reacted, recognized the person who came in, and called out. The old lady hurried over, took out the remaining amulets and handed them to the little daughter. "Nanan, put the amulet away quickly. This amulet is very effective." Unlike other people in the family, the little daughter is a college student and a professional woman. She has received a Western education and believes in science, not ghosts and gods. She did not take the amulet, but frowned and said, "Mom, don't get involved in these futile superstitions. I've just been unlucky these days, and it will be fine after a while." "How can you just be unlucky? You are so unlucky that you have even implicated the people around you." The old lady said, "You must have been contaminated by something dirty and dragged down our whole family." The little daughter frowned when she thought of her father, who broke his leg, and her 2 nephews and nieces, who were slightly injured. This is indeed not ordinary bad luck. Is someone cursing her? This girl graduated from a church school, and she thought about unusual things, and she also thought about Western things. But this time she was right. Someone really cursed her with Western witchcraft. The old lady took advantage of her little daughter's daze and stuffed the amulet into her little daughter's hand. At the moment the amulet touched her little daughter's body, the old lady and the little daughter heard a shrill scream. If it was just a scream, they would think it was a common hallucination, but before the scream ended, a black mist emerged from the little daughter's body and dissipated into the air when it flew to the ceiling. The old lady and the little daughter were both stunned. The old lady was better. She felt that her daughter was contaminated with dirt from the beginning. Now that she saw with her own eyes that the dirt was driven out of her daughter's body and destroyed, the old lady was greatly relieved. She respected Zhang Jingxin, the master, even more in her heart. She decided to go to Zhang Jingxin's shop to buy another amulet later. Her daughter's amulet was scrapped, and she had to buy another one to carry with her, to prevent the dirty things from haunting the daughter again. The little daughter heard the screams with her own ears and saw the black fog with her own eyes, causing her three views to begin to collapse. Are there really such things in the world? As a person involved, her feelings are clearer than her little niece. Just when the black fog left her body, she felt that her heavy body suddenly became light. All these made her believe some facts that she had never believed. "Mom, thanks to you." The little daughter calmed down and said to herself with lingering fear. If it weren't for her mother insisting on buying amulets and insisting that she wear amulets, she would not know that she was really haunted by those things. The old lady patted the back of her daughter's hand and said, "I am your mother, so of course I have to protect you. Hurry up and get up, change your clothes, and let's go out for a while." "Where to?" asked the daughter. The old lady said, "Go to the incense and candle shop and buy another amulet. The amulet you just bought is scrapped, so I have to buy you another one to carry with you." The little daughter looked at the amulet in her hand that turned into black ash, jumped out of bed immediately, rushed into the bathroom, quickly washed up, changed into outer clothes, and appeared in front of the old lady. "Mom, let's go." "Where are you going?" The eldest daughter-in-law hurriedly stopped the two of them. "Are you not going to have breakfast?" "No, buying the amulet is more important." After saying this, the two of them walked out of the house. The eldest daughter-in-law looked at the closed door and said to her husband, "Mom and little sister are going out together. Aren't you afraid of being affected by little sister's bad luck?" The eldest son said naively, "No, Mom has a talisman on her." The little granddaughter heard this and immediately said, "The talisman is very good. I feel very relaxed and comfortable now." The eldest daughter-in-law was surprised. "Is it true? The talisman really works?" The old man walked out of the door with a cane and said, "It works. I feel very relaxed now." The eldest daughter-in-law couldn't help but smack her lips. The old lady's daughter is called Su Qingni. She has graduated from college and works in a foreign trade company. She doesn't look particularly outstanding, but she dresses fashionably and is also an urban beauty. At least Zhang Jingxin was stunned. Su Qingni looked at Zhang Jingxin, then at Su Qingni, and walked to the two of them. Su Qingni and Zhang Jingxin were having a great time chatting. Although Zhang Jingxin had just arrived and was not as knowledgeable as Su Qingni, he was very good at reading people's expressions and was very eloquent. When chatting with Su Qingni, he played to her strengths and avoided her weaknesses, saying things that interested Su Qingni and made her laugh non-stop. When the old lady saw her daughter getting along with Zhang Jingxin, her eyes lit up. Chapter 918 Entertainment First IX. When the old lady saw her daughter and Zhang Jingxin getting along, her eyes lit up. But when she saw Su Qingni coming over, the old lady's eyebrows couldn't help but frown. I think the old lady thinks that it would be a good choice for her daughter and Zhang Jingxin to become a couple, but Zhang Jingxin is not alone. There is also Su Qingni, a burden. "Daughter, come to grandma." The old lady waved at Su Qingni. She saw Su Qingni walking towards Zhang Jingxin and her daughter, and thought Su Qingni wanted to ruin her daughter's relationship with Zhang Jingxin. Children are so inconsiderate of adults. Her father is still young, why can't he remarry? Why can't she be considerate of her father? Su Qingni looked at the old lady, then looked at the two people who were talking happily, turned around and walked towards the old lady. "Grandma." Su Qingni looked like a good baby. "Good." The old lady thought the little burden was still very cute. Although she was a little thinner, her facial features were very beautiful, and the whole person was well behaved, and she looked more lovable than her little granddaughter. "My daughter, what's your name?" The old lady thought that she should win over this little girl and deal with her first, so that she could not destroy the emotional exchange between her daughter and Master Zhang. "My name is Su Qingni." Su Qingni answered like a child, with innocence written all over her face. What a good name. The old lady habitually praised, and then reacted and asked, why is your surname Su? Why not Zhang? Su Qingni smiled and said, because I am not my father's biological daughter. My father and I came from the same village, but we are the only two who succeeded in coming to Hong Kong Island. My father saw that I was young, so he took me in and took care of me. Not a biological daughter. The old lady's eyes lit up again. Master Zhang is not a second-hand product. It would be better if he is matched with her daughter. Moreover, Su Qingni, this burden, is only an adopted daughter, so she has no qualifications and confidence to prevent Master Zhang from marrying her wife. The old lady laughed. Su Qingni was disgusted by her laughter. The old lady smiled at Su Qingni, like a wolf grandmother. My daughter, do you want a mother to help your father take care of you? Su Qingni tilted her head, made a very cute expression, and said, yes, it would be best if I had a beautiful and fashionable sister to be my mother. My father is so capable, only such a sister can be worthy of my father. The old lady was very happy to hear this. Isn't her own daughter fashionable and beautiful? My daughter, what do you think of that sister as your mother? The old lady leaned close to Su Qingni's ear and whispered. Su Qingni followed the old lady's gaze and moved her eyes to Shi's Hensun, then retracted them. Very good, but my father has to like her. The old lady asked again, then do you think your father will like this sister? Su Qingni nodded, my father likes her. The old lady was very happy to hear this. Shi's Hensun glanced over and saw her mother talking to a little girl. She asked Zhang Jingshan curiously, is that your sister? That's my daughter. The man in front of her actually has a daughter. Doesn't that mean he's married? Shi's Hensun's originally good mood suddenly became depressed, and she lost interest in chatting. She said to the old lady, Mom, the amulets have been bought, and we should go home. We have to go back to have breakfast. Oh, okay, let's go. The old lady hurried over. Shi's Hensun held the old lady's arm and took her away. Su Qingni walked to Zhang Jingshan, looked at the figures of the mother and daughter leaving, and said to Zhang Jingshan beside her, Dad, you like that sister, right? What nonsense are you talking about, kid? Zhang Jingshan pressed down with his big hand and ruffled Su Qingni's hair. Your dad just likes to chat with beautiful girls, but I never thought more about marrying her home. Su Qingni laughed. I didn't ask you to marry her home, but you said it yourself. You are confessing yourself. Silly girl, you actually teased your dad. Zhang Jingshan ruffled Su Qingni's hair hard again, making her neatly combed hair into a mess. Su Qingni held her head with both hands and ran out of the reach of Zhang Jingshan's long arms, saying, Dad, you are angry and embarrassed. You are covering up. What do you know, little girl? Don't talk nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense. I'll tell you something that will make you happy. The mother of that sister is very optimistic about you and wants you to be her son-in-law. That sister also likes you. Dad, come on. Find me a mother to take care of me as soon as possible. Su Qingni ran up to the attic after saying this. Zhang Jingshan was left standing in the shop, and soon he started laughing. Little cunning man. Zhang Jingshan muttered, took out a copper mirror from under the counter to look at him, and muttered to himself, you are so handsome, no wonder some girls like you. Those people in my hometown didn't have good taste before, but people in big cities are better, they have good taste and good looks. If I can really marry you as a daughter-in-law, Su Qingni was sweating after hearing this. On the other hand, Shi's Hensun learned from her mother that Su Qingni was not Zhang Jingshan's biological daughter, but was adopted by Zhang Jingshan, and she had a better impression of Zhang Jingshan. Being able to adopt an orphan from the same hometown, this person's character must be correct. He is handsome, young, and capable, and Shi's Hensun feels that she is going to fall in love. How could the mother not see her daughter's thoughts? She smiled and said, if you like Master Zhang, go after him boldly. Mom supports you. Mom, Shi's Hensun called out embarrassedly, well, how can a girl take the initiative to pursue a man? Why not? It's not the same as before, and you have a foreign education. What's wrong with pursuing a man? It's easy for a woman to succeed in pursuing a man. The old lady said. Really? Shi's Hensun asked with bright eyes. Really? The old lady patted her chest and promised. After getting her mother's assurance, Shi's Hensun's mood became very good. She returned home happily, rested happily for a day, and went to work happily the next day. During this period, she had to take leave because of bad luck. and she had not come to the company for several days. When she came to the company today, she heard everyone talking about the same thing. At first, she thought everyone was talking about her bad luck, but after listening, she realized that a strange thing happened in the company yesterday. Her colleague Lin Wan suddenly screamed while sitting in her seat yesterday, and jumped 3 feet high. When she fell, she was unconscious, blood kept coming out of her mouth, and her face and body were covered with horrible black lines. Chapter 919 Entertainment First. When Shi Hanxian heard about Lin Wan's appearance at that time, she was shocked and hurriedly asked her colleague, when did Lin Wan become like that? Around 8:40 in the morning. The colleague remembered it clearly. It was not time to go to work yet. She was sitting in her seat eating breakfast. 8:40. It was when her mother bought the amulet and stuffed it into her hand. So her bad luck was related to Lin Wan? Shi Hanxian decided to ask Zhang Jingshan after get off work. Zhang Jingshan had already opened a shop and took out a metaphysics book to read. He didn't believe in ghosts and gods, but it didn't stop him from reading related books and pretending to be a charlatan. Feng Shui masters in this city seem to be very popular and can make a lot of money. He can also help people with Feng Shui. Isn't it just saying some mysterious words that ordinary people don't understand and listen to? He is very good at this kind of thing. But these metaphysics books are also very interesting and attractive. Zhang Jingshan was reading enthusiastically when another old lady entered the shop. As soon as they entered the shop, the old lady started shouting, "Master, Master, please save me." Zhang Jingshan looked up at the old lady and said, "Grandma, this is a shop selling incense and candles, not a hospital. If you want to find someone to save you, you should call a doctor or the police." The old lady rushed over when she saw Zhang Jingshan and said, "Master, only you can save us." Su Qingni lowered her little head from the attic and looked at the old lady. There was a ghost aura on the old lady. She must have provoked a ghost. Without waiting for Zhang Jingshan to say no again, the old lady spoke out a request. It turned out that she came to ask Zhang Jingshan to catch a ghost. Their house has been invaded by ghosts for some time. The lights in the room flickered, and what came out of the faucet was not water but blood. The old lady and her family were scared and wanted to ask a master to help exorcise the ghost. But the so-called masters they had found before had no skills. They were useless except for cheating money. The old lady's house is very close to that of Wang. Yesterday, when she heard Wang bragging about Zhang Jingshan in front of others, she was moved and came to Zhang Jingshan for help today. "Teacher, please help us. We will definitely reward you handsomely." Zhang Jingshan was moved when he heard the word handsome reward. He made a lot of money selling amulets yesterday. He must make more money from exorcism, right? In Zhang Jingshan's opinion, the flickering light is just because the light bulb is broken. Just change a light bulb. The red liquid flowing out of the faucet is not blood, but red rust that dyes the water red. There are no ghosts in the world. "Okay, I'll go home with you," Zhang Jingshan said. "Great." When the old lady saw Zhang Jingshan was about to go with her empty-handed, she hurriedly asked, "Master, don't you bring any tools?" Tools. Zhang Jingshan suddenly realized and took out a wooden sword, a compass, and several yellow talismans from the counter. Except for the yellow talisman drawn by Su Qingni, the other two are just ordinary items. The wooden sword is said to be a peach wood sword, but in fact it is not made of peach wood at all. Zhang Jingshan carved it himself from the wood of old furniture. Zhang Jingshan called Su Qingni again and asked her to look after the store at home. "You look after the store obediently, don't run around, and wait for Dad to come back and bring you roasted pigeon to eat." Su Qingni nodded obediently, took out the jade amulet she made from her pocket and gave it to Zhang Jingshan. "Dad, this is for you." Zhang Jingshan took the amulet in confusion. The feel and color seem to be the jade pendant I gave to the little girl, but why has the shape changed? However, this shape looks better than before, with a kind of high-end and classy beauty. Is this the jade pendant I gave you? Why has it changed? Zhang Jingshan asked in surprise. Su Qingni raised her little head, her eyes full of stars, like a child trying to please an adult. "This is carved by me, and I gave it to Dad as a gift. Dad must bring it with you." Zhang Jingshan was deeply moved. Although the little girl used the jade pendant he gave her, it was made by her own hands. It was this thought that touched Zhang Jingshan deeply. "Okay, Dad will definitely wear it every day," Zhang Jingshan said as he tied the amulet around his neck with a red thread. "Then Dad, you should go early and come back early." Su Qingni waved goodbye to Zhang Jingshan. With this amulet, the Ghost Brothers will definitely avoid Zhang Jingshan. The ghosts in the old lady's house will definitely fly out to avoid the limelight, just in time to create a false impression that Zhang Jingxin successfully exorcised a ghost. Su Qingni took out cinnabar, picked up the brush, and began to write and draw on the yellow paper. Unknowingly, several hours had passed. Zhang Jingxin had not returned yet. Su Qingni could imagine that in order to cheat more money, Zhang Jingxin would definitely say that ghosts were difficult to deal with and would perform so-called rituals, which would definitely take a long time. No one came to buy anything during this period. Yes, the business of the incense and candle shop is mostly concentrated in the 3 time periods of Qingming, July, and the middle of the year. During normal times, there are few customers. Shi Zhensun came instead, holding a bag of fruits in her hands. When she saw Su Qingni, she smiled and asked the little girl to eat the fruits. This little girl is cute and well-behaved. It is not bad to have such a stepdaughter. Shi Zhensun has already put herself in the role of stepmother. Shi Zhensun looked around the shop and did not see Zhang Jingxin, so she asked, "Qingni, where's your father?" "Dad went to help others deal with ghosts." "Sisters Zhensun, do you want to find Dad? Then sit down and wait a little longer. Dad said he would bring back roasted pigeon, so you can have dinner at our house." Su Qingni made an invitation. Shi Zhensun was moved and agreed after a moment of hesitation. In addition to wanting to meet the man she liked, she also wanted to find out about Lin Wan. Shi Zhensun saw the little girl writing and drawing on yellow paper with a brush, and asked in surprise, "You can draw talismans at such a young age?" Su Qingni nodded, "Yes, yes." Shi Zhensun came over and wanted to see how Su Qingni drew talismans. As a result, she saw that the yellow paper was not a messy talisman that she thought she could not understand, but 2 rows of neat regular script. Looking at the content, she saw that the words were rich, democratic, civilized, harmonious, free, equal, fair, rule of law, patriotic, dedicated, honest, and friendly. She's Henzhen, so it's not a talisman. But these 12 words are really good, and society should be like this. Su Qingni nodded, "Yes. They are much more useful than ordinary talismans. These 24 words are the most powerful magic weapon to kill evil spirits." Shi Zhensun didn't know this. She thought the little girl was practicing calligraphy. "Qingni, your father?" Shi Zhensun asked about Zhang Jingxin in a roundabout way, wanting to learn more about Zhang Jingxin from the little girl. Chapter 920 Entertainment First Zai. Shi Zhensun's little thoughts could not be hidden from Su Qingni, but Su Qingni wanted to match Shi Zhensun and Zhang Jingxin, so she appropriately revealed some of Zhang Jingxin's preferences to Shi Zhensun and said some good things about Zhang Jingxin. Shi Zhensun didn't know that she was seen through by the girl. She was very happy to get the news of the person she liked, and she laughed and chatted with Su Qingni. Zhang Jingxin returned home and heard the laughter. He was puzzled. He hurried into the house and saw Shi Zhensun with a smile as beautiful as a flower. Zhang Jingxin's heart seemed to be hit hard. He thought he should consider getting married. Seeing Zhang Jingxin coming back, Shi Zhensun stood up, her face blushed, and she looked shy, and she didn't know what to say. Su Qingni helped her out and said to Zhang Jingxin, "Dad, Sister Zhensun has something to ask you. You stay with Sister Zhensun first, I'll go to cook." After that, she took the packed food box from Zhang Jingxin and ran into the kitchen. Zhang Jingxin not only bought roasted pigeon, but also a portion of white-cut chicken. If it was just the 2 of them eating, Su Qingni would just make a vegetarian soup. But now there was an extra Shi Zhensun, so Su Qingni made 2 more side dishes. Outside, Shi Zhensun had already told Zhang Jingxin about Lin Wan. It just so happened that Zhang Jingxin read a similar story in the book Zuiman Zashitan today, which was just right for fooling Shi Zhensun. "Then Lin Wan should be the one who harmed you. You must have offended her. She took your personal belongings or your hair and nails to curse you, so you are unlucky. The amulets sold in our shop are somewhat useful and broke the curse on you." Lin Wan was backlashed and looked like that. She deserved it. Shi Zhensun got a definite answer and was in a bad mood. She and Lin Wan entered the company at the same time. Because they were both young girls, they had a good relationship and occasionally went shopping together. But she didn't expect that she treated her as a friend, but she was bent on harming her. Seeing that Shi Zhensun was in a bad mood, Zhang Jingxin quickly used his eloquence to make Shi Zhensun laugh. The man she liked was only interested in making her happy, so Shi Zhensun immediately threw away her bad mood. Su Qingni cooked dinner and asked the 2 of them to eat. Shi Zhensun was amazed by the food Su Qingni cooked, and kept praising Su Qingni for her good cooking skills. Su Qingni smiled and said, "Sisters Hanson thinks my food is delicious, so come and eat it often in the future." Dad must be very happy that Sisters Hanson came to her house. "You little girl are so naughty." Shi's Hanson blushed, but her expression was very happy, and she secretly glanced at Zhang Jingshan. Zhang Jingshan smiled at Shi's Hanson teasingly. Su Qingni put down her bowl of rice. She was full and didn't want to eat dog food anymore. She ran back to her attic and didn't come down until Shi's Hanson helped wash the dishes. "You are so naughty." Zhang Jingshan flicked Su Qingni's head. Su Qingni covered her forehead and snorted twice. "Aren't I creating an opportunity for you and Sisters Hanxian to be alone? Dad, when are you going to marry Sisters Hanxian home? Why are you in a hurry? You have to get to know her better and understand her temper and personality first. And their family must know my past. What if they don't accept someone like me? This marriage will not be successful." Zhang Jingshan thought a lot. Su Qingni said, "The Shi family will definitely accept Dad. Grandma won't think of you as a master." Zhang Jingshan sighed, "But I'm not a master at all, I'm just a liar, a charlatan." Su Qingni, "As long as he's not exposed, a charlatan is a master." "Dad, you won't take the initiative to admit that you are a charlatan, right?" Zhang Jingshan, "Do you think I should admit it?" Su Qingni, "I think you can pretend if you can. For the harmony of the family." Zhang Jingshan, "I have to think about it carefully." Su Qingni asked about what happened at the old lady's house today, and Zhang Jingshan showed disgust on his face. The ghost that the old woman mentioned was her former daughter-in-law. The old woman wanted a grandson, but her daughter-in-law gave birth to 4 daughters. She gave all 4 girls away and forced her daughter-in-law, whose health was getting worse and worse, to give birth to her 5th child. The daughter-in-law's body could not support her to continue giving birth. She was in very poor health when she was pregnant. The neighbors said that the daughter-in-law was as thin as a skeleton, with a bulging belly, which looked very scary. Then the daughter-in-law had a difficult delivery and died before giving birth. The child was finally taken out, but it was still a baby girl. The old woman threw the baby out without even looking at it. She didn't even take a piece of clothing to wrap the child. Fortunately, a neighbor saw the baby girl being picked up, otherwise such a young child might not survive. The old woman hastily dealt with the daughter-in-law's funeral, and then turned around and found a young woman from the countryside to be her son's stepmother. At that time, her former daughter-in-law's first 7 days of death had not yet passed. Zhang Jingshan felt that the things that happened in the old woman's house were probably man-made. It was someone the former daughter-in-law knew or her family who secretly did something bad to retaliate against the old woman's family. He did not expose it, and let the old woman think that it was a ghost. This way, the people who were doing things secretly would not be implicated. He also deceived the old woman by saying that her former daughter-in-law had a deep hatred for her and would never leave until she got revenge. This scared the old woman a lot. He just happened to cheat more money from the old woman, and then performed a messy ritual to coax the old woman. When I was performing the ritual, I said some words to warn the people in the dark. As long as that person listened, he should not cause trouble for the old woman's family. After all, it's not good to be caught. Zhang Jingshan said, "As for the money, we keep half of it, and use the rest to exchange for goods in the store, and burn it to the former daughter-in-law at night. Of course, there are no ghosts or gods in this world, and the things burned are just a formality." Su Qingni thought to herself, "This is not a formality, the former daughter-in-law can receive it." After 9 o'clock in the evening, Zhang Jingshan took incense, candles and paper money outside, circled an area in the corner, and began to burn paper. In addition to paper money, he also burned 2 paper people and a paper house. After burning these, Zhang Jingshan went back to his room to sleep. Su Qingni came to the corner and saw a skinny woman floating over. The woman floated to the corner and immediately lay on the ground and began to inhale incense and candles. Su Qingni watched her movements, and waited until she stood up with satisfaction before speaking. "Are you full? Do you want to eat more?" The woman was shocked and stared at Su Qingni. One of her eyeballs bulged out of her eye socket and almost fell to the ground. Su Qingni quickly caught the eyeball and handed it back to the woman. The woman was even more shocked. You can see me." Chapter 921 Entertainment First Zai. There were too many people who surprised the woman today. Before, her mother-in-law brought another master home. The master was just like the previous ones. He was actually a liar and could not see her. But there was a kind of power in that person to protect him. Not only could they, the ghosts, not hurt him, but they also had to stay away from him when they saw him from a distance. Because she was forced to leave home, she didn't know what that person and her mother-in-law did. Unexpectedly, the master was kind-hearted. He used the money he got from her mother-in-law to burn paper and clothes for her and let her eat her fill. Now she met a little girl who could see her. Although the little girl did not have the power to make them stay away, she was afraid from the bottom of her heart and could not think of resisting the little girl. She heard the little girl say that the sins of her mother-in-law and husband had been recorded by the judge of the underworld, and they would be punished accordingly after they died. And she should not take action against her mother-in-law and husband, otherwise she would also commit a crime. The little girl asked her to put everything aside and said that she could be sent to the underworld to reincarnate. This statement is very tempting. Who doesn't want to be a new person? But the woman still rejected this temptation. She could let go of her hatred for her mother-in-law and husband and stop taking revenge on them, but she couldn't let go of her 5 daughters. They were all her flesh and blood, but she didn't protect them well. She didn't take care of them for a few days, and watched them being sent away by her mother-in-law. She was not a good mother. But now she wants to be a good mother. She wants to find them and protect them by her side. After hearing the woman's idea, Su Qingni gave up the idea of forcibly sending her to the underworld. "What's your name?" Su Qingni asked. The woman replied, "My name is Yungu, Lu Yungu." Su Qingni, Lu Yungu, as half of the master of the underworld, I allow you to stay in the world for 50 years. After 50 years, you must report to the underworld. After Su Qingni finished speaking, Lu Yungu felt that there was an extra layer of restraint on her body, but it was also a kind of protection. With this kind of protection, the staff in the underworld will not treat her as a lonely ghost when they see her, and will not catch her. Other ghosts who want to bully her have to think about it. "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." Lu Yungu is very grateful and bowed to Su Qingni repeatedly. Su Qingni waved her hand and let her leave. Su Qingni returned to the shop and heard Zhang Jingshan's steady breathing in her ears. She smiled and went up to the attic. What Su Qingni didn't know was that after she went upstairs, Zhang Jingshan opened his eyes. Zhang Jingshan is not a fool. Although some things ruined his worldview, since they existed, he had to face them. After looking at those things from a different angle, Zhang Jingshan discovered that his adopted daughter was unusual. But if the little girl didn't say it, he wouldn't ask. Who doesn't have a little secret? He only knew that this little girl was sincere to him and really respected him as a father. Zhang Jingshan raised his hand and touched the jade pendant on his chest, grinning. Su Qingni didn't know this. First, the strength of her body was still very weak, and second, she didn't need to release her spiritual sense at home, so naturally she didn't see Zhang Jingshan smile. Su Qingni lay down on the bed and yawned. Hey, she's still a child. Don't children sleep a lot? Because Lv Yungu went to find her 5 daughters, no strange things happened in the old woman's house. The old woman naturally thought it was Zhang Jingshan's credit, and she followed old lady Wang to brag about Zhang Jingshan, saying that Zhang Jingshan was a master who was more powerful than Uncle Jiu. The neighbors believed it and their attitude towards Zhang Jingshan changed. Zhang Jingshan took Su Qingni to the noodle shop next door to eat noodles. Uncle Jin and Aunt Jin would add an extra poached egg and a piece of luncheon meat to their bowls to please them. More and more people came to the store to buy amulets. Almost every neighbor came to buy 1 or 2 amulets, which made Zhang Jingshan earn a lot of money. Zhang Jingshan counted the money with a smile on his face, and his mouth couldn't close. But he also knew that he would only make this amount of money, and there would be no such good business afterwards. Haha, I've made tens of thousands of yuan in the past few days. Zhang Jingshan's eyes were shaped like $. I didn't expect that I, Zhang Jingshan, would become a rich man one day. Hasn't Dad always been a rich man? Just those gold bars and antiques of yours, you can get a lot of money by selling any one of them. Su Qingni heard from Zhang Jingshan that those big and more valuable antiques could not be taken out of his hometown, but were hidden by Zhang Jingshan in a very secret place to ensure that no one could find them. When the situation in his hometown gets better, he will go back to take the things out. Su Qingni made a preliminary estimate of the value of those things, and Zhang Jingshan could be considered a multimillionaire. Nowadays, money is still very valuable, and the net worth of a multimillionaire at this time is higher than that of a billionaire or a billionaire in the future. Zhang Jingshan laughed. Those are left by my father, and this is what I earned myself. There is no comparison. After counting all the money, Zhang Jingshan reluctantly handed the money to Su Qingni and asked Su Qingni to keep it. He knew his own character. He wanted to spend the money as soon as he got it. He would spend all the money in a few days. Su Qingni took the money and took out 200 yuan bills and gave them to Zhang Jingxin. Dad, use these for pocket money. So much? I'd better not take it. Just give me 100 yuan. Zhang Jingxin said hurriedly. 100 yuan is enough for a family of 5 to live for a month. Dad, you take it all. Dating, watching movies, shopping and eating all cost money. Su Qingni said and took out another 200 yuan from the money and put it on herself. The 200 yuan was their living expenses and her pocket money. Date. Zhang Jingxin's old face rarely turned red. What do you think about all day, little girl? I want you to marry Sisters Hinsun as soon as possible. Su Qingni thought about it and took out another 100 yuan to Zhang Jingxin. Dad, this 100 yuan is for you to buy clothes and shoes. Go buy a few suits and get a haircut, and you will become a dragon among men, more handsome than those men who sit in offices and study abroad. By then, not only Sisters Hinsun, but other urban beauties may fall at your feet under your suit pants. Zhang Jingxin hit Su Qingni with a chestnut. Where did you learn these words, girl? You fall at the feet of suit pants, you fall at the feet of a pomegranate skirt. Su Qingni, but Dad, you don't wear skirts. Zhang Jingxin was speechless by Su Qingni's retort. His eyes glanced at the TV he had just bought 2 days ago, and he immediately found the root cause of his child's bad behavior. Watch less TV in the future. Chapter 922 Entertainment First 13. Finally, after being despised and fooled by Su Qingni, Zhang Jingxin still took Su Qingni out shopping for clothes. First he went to the barber shop to get his hair cut, and then went shopping for gifts. Su Qingni took Zhang Jingxin into a boutique and bought more than 10 sets of clothes for him at once. The cheapest of these clothes cost dozens of yuan, and the most expensive ones cost hundreds of yuan. This one spent thousands of yuan. Zhang Jingxin was so distressed that he kept sobbing, but when he saw the salesperson's unbelievable expression, Zhang Jingxin smiled smugly again. Humph, I told you to look down on people. Dressing ordinary does not mean you don't have money. In fact, the salespersons in the store are pretty good. After the two entered the store, they just sat aside and didn't greet them. The staff of the two stores that entered before were disgusting. Seeing that he and Su Qingni were only wearing cloth clothes, they drove them out of the store directly, and said that they, who were poor and couldn't afford good clothes, would only lower the style of their store if they entered the store. It's so hateful. The salespeople in the store were so shocked that their jaws dropped. When the two people came into the store, they thought they were just poor country bumpkins who came to see the world, so they didn't greet them. Because they were from poor families, they didn't develop the habit of looking down on others. They didn't look down on the customers just because they were from the same class as them, and they didn't drive them away. Unexpectedly, because of this, they got a good reward. This business was worth thousands of yuan, which was their turnover for more than half a month. They could get a lot just from the commission. If the salespeople in the two stores opposite and next door knew about this, they would definitely regret it, right? But they deserved it, because they drove away the god of wealth. But these rich people are really strange, pretending to be poor. The two salespeople were not surprised to see a little girl like Su Qingni take money out of her pocket to pay the bill. Anyway, this is a quirk of rich people. Dad, change into a suit, and don't want the clothes you wore before. Su Qingni said to Zhang Jingxin. No, the clothes are of commemorative significance, so I can't give them up. Zhang Jingxin shook his head. The clothes he was wearing before were bought from the first family he entered when he first came to Hong Kong Island. They are very commemorative. Then I'll pack them for you. The clever salesperson said hurriedly. Another salesperson flattered Zhang Jingxin. Sir, you have a great figure, and you look perfect in a suit. You are tall and straight, and you look so handsome. Really? Zhang Jingxin's eyes sparkled. He liked to hear people praising him. Yes, sir, you are handsome to begin with, and you look even more handsome in a suit. Can you tell me your name? Looking at the admiration flashing in the salesperson's eyes, Zhang Jingxin felt very happy. Although he didn't know whether the two salespeople admired him as a person or his money. Since the girls took the initiative to seduce him, wouldn't it be bad if he didn't give back? So Zhang Jingxin used his slick tongue to make the two salesgirls laugh. Su Qingni stood aside with a wooden face. If Zhang Jingxin had lived in this big city instead of his hometown for the past 20 years, he would have grown up to be a playboy. Although he is a playboy now, He has a bottom line and will not be a playboy in action. Zhang Jingshan knew his limits and left after teasing the two girls for a while. The two salesmen reluctantly sent Zhang Jingshan out of the store. Well, they were so amused that they didn't even notice that he didn't answer their previous questions and told them his name and address. The salesman in the shops opposite and next door saw the two salesmen personally seeing the customers out, and then looked at the big and small bags in the customers' hands, and they couldn't help but envy the good luck of the two salesmen. Why didn't such a generous customer come into their store? Hey, that's not right. The little girl next to the handsome guy in a suit looks so familiar. The cloth clothes she wears are the little one of the big and small who came into the store before, right? Then the man in the suit next to her is not. The salespeople in the two stores regretted it so much that their intestines turned green, and their faces were extremely ugly. They didn't have the face to let the father and daughter see them again, so they shrank their necks and hid back in their own stores. Their reactions were seen by the sharp-eyed and sharp-eared Zhang Jingshan. Zhang Jingshan sneered, holding the shopping bag in one hand and holding Su Qingni in the other, and walked through the doors of the two clothing stores with his head held high. Zhang Jingshan took Su Qingni to the children's clothing store. This time, because of his dress, the salespeople would not drive them away or ignore them, but came up to warmly greet Zhang Jingshan and Su Qingni. Zhang Jingshan pointed at Su Qingni and said to the salesperson, "Pick out 10 sets of the most beautiful and expensive clothes for my daughter." The salesperson's eyes lit up at once. The most expensive clothes in their store cost thousands. Not to mention selling 10 sets. Even if she only sold one set, the commission would be a lot, enough for her monthly salary. No need. Su Qingni quickly spoke up to stop the salesperson. "I'll just buy 3 sets of clothes at an average price." "How can that be? My daughter wants to wear the best." Zhang Jingshan disagreed. Su Qingni looked up and asked Zhang Jingshan, "Dad, do you know how much the best clothes cost?" "More than 100 yuan. Zhang Jingshan guessed. Just now at the suit shop, the salesperson quoted the price at checkout. His most expensive suit cost 198 yuan, the most expensive of all his suits. Children's clothes use less material, so the price should be cheaper, right? Su Qingni shook her head. "Dad, the suits I chose for you just now are all mid-range. The most expensive suit is over 1,000 yuan. The same goes for children's clothes." "This, so expensive?" Zhang Jingshan was shocked. Su Qingni nodded, "Because it is designed by a world-famous designer, it is a world-renowned brand." Zhang Jingshan was silent for a while, then said, "Let's go to Brother Bao's tailor shop to make clothes in the future. Brother Bao has good skills and the price is not expensive." Su Qingni nodded again. "Okay, I also think Brother Bao's skills in making clothes are good." Zhang Jingshan, "Then why do you bring me to these clothing stores to buy clothes?" Su Qingni, "I have to buy a few branded goods to show off." Zhang Jingshan was sweating, and could only dryly warn Su Qingni to watch less TV in the future. This child learns everything good and bad, and is not as simple as before in the village. Su Qingni rolled her eyes at Zhang Jingshan. "You are different?" In the end, under Zhang Jingshan's insistence, Su Qingni bought 2 more sets of clothes. Each set of clothes cost hundreds of dollars, and the 5 sets of clothes added up to 700 or 800, which is more expensive than Zhang Jingshan's 5 suits added up. If Su Qingni had not tried her best to stop him, Zhang Jingshan would have bought 2 more sets of clothes, and the total price would have exceeded the total price of his suits. Chapter 923 Entertainment First Ziv. At Zhang Jingshan's request, Su Qingni changed into the newly bought princess dress. The 2 braids were untied, and the salesperson helped to comb her hair into princess's head. The hair flower was a gift from the store. With this operation, Su Qingni became like a little lady. "Beautiful, my daughter is really beautiful." Zhang Jingshan was very satisfied, and felt that there was no girl in the world more lovely and beautiful than his daughter. Su Qingni raised her head slightly and made a proud little expression. With her temperament, she really looked like a little princess. "Good, good, good." Before Zhang Jingshan could open his mouth to praise, another man's voice of praise came from behind. Then a fat figure rushed out from behind Zhang Jingshan, past Zhang Jingshan, and rushed to Su Qingni. "Little sister, are you interested in acting in a movie?" The fat man was like a weird uncle who kidnapped children. Zhang Jingshan immediately stepped forward, grabbed the fat man's collar, and pulled him away from Su Qingni. "Stay away from my daughter. Let go, let go." The fat man was very uncomfortable with the bamboo on his neck, and hurriedly shouted, "Sir, I'm not a liar or a pervert, I'm a director." There is a role in the movie I'm shooting that is very suitable for your daughter. I want to invite your daughter to act in the movie and be a movie star." The fat man thought that after he said this, both the girl and her father would be very interested, and immediately became friendly and flattered him. As a result, the father and daughter looked down on him. "Qingni, the money has been paid, let's go." "Okay, Dad. We're not going to the restaurant to eat today. Dad will take you to eat Western food." "Dad, I don't like Western food." "Then let's go to McDonald's. I heard that this is a very famous fast food restaurant for foreigners. Although it's not nutritious, I think Dad will definitely like it." The father and daughter walked around him as if the fat man didn't exist. Left. "Damn. This is too unimportant, isn't it?" Fatty reacted and chased after them. "Don't go, I'm really a director. I can only ask this little girl to act in a movie." Fatty caught up with the two and said breathlessly, "Sir, I'm really not a pervert. If you don't believe me, I can take you to my crew. You can see for yourself whether what I said is true or not." "No, my daughter doesn't act in movies." Zhang Jingshan rejected the fat man. He felt that the fat man was unpleasant no matter how he looked at him. He looked wretched. Who knows if his crew is real or fake? If it's fake, then the people in the crew are human traffickers like the fat man. If he and Qingni go, wouldn't they be walking into a trap and entering a wolf's den? "No, sir. It's good to be a movie actor. It's easy to make money, and you can become a star and be known and admired by many people." The fat man talked endlessly about the benefits of being a star, which made Zhang Jingshan a little tempted, but in the end he still refused firmly. "Why do you say that? Isn't this nonsense? There is no such thing as pie in the sky." The more nice the fat guy said, the more complicated the matter was. There must be glass shards inside the candy. Zhang Jingshan simply picked up Su Qingni, stretched out his long legs, and ran away. The fat guy was stunned for a moment and quickly chased after him, but unfortunately his short legs could not compare to Zhang Jingshan's long legs, and he couldn't catch up after a while. Zhang Jingshan took Su Qingni and got rid of the fat guy, then put Su Qingni down. Finally got rid of that liar. Su Qingni curled her lips and decided not to tell Zhang Jingshan that the fat guy was not a liar, and he must be telling the truth. But being a movie star is pretty good. You can make money and be liked by so many people. Zhang Jingshan pinched his chin and said, "Qingni, what do you think about Dad being a movie star?" Su Qingni twitched her lips and said, "Dad, you don't know anyone in the film and television circles. How can you become a movie star? Will people choose you to be an actor?" "Yes, this is indeed a problem." Zhang Jingshan thought for a while and said, "I heard from Aunt Liang that her son is a supporting actor in the film and television city. How about I ask her son to help?" Su Qingni, "Dad, the status of supporting actors is very low, and they all play roles like passers-by and dead bodies. Are you willing?" Zhang Jingshan shook his head vigorously. "I'm so handsome, how can I play a dead body?" Su Qingni, "So Dad, don't have unrealistic fantasies." Zhang Jingshan sighed, "Little girl, can't you not discourage my enthusiasm?" Su Qingni, "Dad, I just want you to face the facts. Come on, I can't argue with you, housekeeper." Zhang Jingshan surrendered. The two chatted and laughed, but they didn't know that they would be involved in the TV and film circles in the future, and it would get deeper and deeper. The father and daughter had a McDonald's lunch. After returning home and resting for more than an hour, Su Qingni stuffed a dating plan into Zhang Jingshan's hand and drove Zhang Jingshan out of the house. Zhang Jingshan took the dating plan given to him by his daughter with a twitch in his mouth, and was really speechless. But after reading it once, he found that the plan was pretty good. "Well, let's do it according to the plan. First go to the flower shop to buy a bouquet of flowers, and then hold the flowers and go downstairs of Shi's Hansun to wait for her to get off work." According to the plan, Zhang Jingshan stood in front of the side of the gate so that people entering and leaving the building could see him as soon as they came out. Sure enough, everyone in and out of the building saw Zhang Jingshan. He is handsome, well-dressed, and has a lazy temperament with unruly, which is very attractive to girls. Many girls couldn't help but be moved when they saw Zhang Jingshan, and they all thought how good it would be if this man was waiting for them. They were jealous of the woman who was waited for by this man. Shi's Hansun saw Zhang Jingshan as soon as she left the building. Zhang Jingshan gave her a refreshing feeling today. Compared with his usual dress, he looked more handsome and attractive today. Her heartbeat immediately quickened and her cheeks blushed. She felt that if Zhang Jingshan proposed to her at this time, she would definitely agree. Zhang Jingshan saw Shi's Hansun coming out, smiled at her and walked towards her. As he approached, Shi Henzhen's heartbeat quickened. Zhang Jingshan walked to her side and handed the beautifully packaged flowers to Shi Henzhen, flowers for beauty. At this moment, Shi Henzhen's happiness reached its peak. She heard the women around her gasping and felt the jealous eyes of the women around her. Shi Henzhen was proud. This man was hers, and those jealous women could die of jealousy. She reached out and took Zhang Jingshan's arm, like a victorious peacock, leaving the woman's sight with the fruits of victory. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 924 Entertainment First XV. Zhang Jingshan and Shi Henzhen held their wedding not long after. Although there were conflicts between the two due to differences in cultural education, both of them had good personalities and would understand each other, so they lived a good life after marriage. Because of her family background, Shi Henzhen valued reality more than face, so she did not think it was shameful to marry a candle shop owner, even though her colleagues all ridiculed her after knowing Zhang Jingshan's profession. Shi Henzhen ignored these ridicules. How could they know that her husband was a master? Although her husband often behaved carelessly and did not look like a master, he looked more like a charlatan. But at critical moments, her husband was very reliable, and those demons and ghosts would take the initiative to avoid her husband. There were also talismans sold in her own shop, which were very effective. Although they were painted by the adopted daughter had such strong skills, not to mention her husband. Anyway, in Shi Henzhen's eyes, her husband was good and great. This ideal led to her and Zhang Jingshan's increasingly integrated relationship and a happy marriage. Shi Henzhen and Su Qingni also have a good relationship, and Shi Henzhen treats Su Qingni very well. Su Qingni is not her husband's biological daughter, and she doesn't know that her original mother is Zhang Jingshan's first love. Zhang Jingshan and Su Qingni have both concealed this from Shi Henzhen, so there will be no awkward feelings of a stepmother towards her husband's other children, and she can be assured to be good to Su Qingni, and the family of three lives an ordinary and warm life. Ordinary is only for Zhang Jingshan and Shi Henzhen, two ordinary people. This world is not ordinary. Over the past year, more than a dozen people have come to Zhang Jingshan because of his fame. Among these more than 10, half have nothing to do with the Ghost Brothers, but some coincidences and scaring themselves, and Zhang Jingshan fooled them into thinking that the problem has been solved. The remaining half of the Ghost Brothers hide when they see Zhang Jingshan, so that Zhang Jingshan will not be hurt at all, and then at night Su Qingni will help Zhang Jingshan clean up. This makes Zhang Jingshan's reputation higher and higher, and spreads more and more. Most people in the city believe in ghosts and gods. The business in the shop is getting better and better, and most people come here to buy amulets. Zhang Jingshan simply raised the price of the amulets. Except for the discounts when the neighbors come to buy, other people have to pay hundreds of yuan to buy one. The huge profits have made their family's life better and better, and the family's savings have exceeded 100,000. Zhang Jingshan's thoughts are filled with the landlord ideas passed down by his ancestors and parents. What the landlord wants most is, of course, land, and more land for his family. Now in the city, it is impossible to farm, and buying land is useless. So Zhang Jingshan turned to buying a house. Houses are not very expensive now, and Zhang Jingshan has enough money to buy 3 houses. He chose a big house and moved in with his wife and adopted daughter. The remaining 2 houses were rented out to others, and there was an extra rent every month. Su Qingni insisted on staying in the shop on the grounds that she did not want to disturb Zhang Jingshan and Shi Henzhen's life. Zhang Jingshan tried to persuade her a few times, but when he saw her firm attitude, he stopped persuading her. He only told Su Qingni to take good care of herself and left Su Qingni in the incense and candle shop. Su Qingni smiled. Zhang Jingshan was very perceptive. Did he find out that he was not an ordinary child? These days, Zhang Jingshan was working hard to read some books on Zuanmen. She helped Zhang Jingshan to clean up many things. In fact, Zhang Jingshan was also helping him to cover up, right? Zhang Jingshan was becoming more and more like a charlatan, at least he was fluent in professional terms. He was not good at practicing martial arts and magic, but he was very talented in feng shui. He could get started by reading books by himself, and he made some progress in a year. Anyway, even if he really met a master in Zuanmen in the future, he would not be exposed. Shi Henzhen wondered why her husband agreed to let Su Qingni, A little child, stay in the shop. She wanted to persuade Su Qingni to live in the big house with him, but Su Qingni refused because she was used to living in the attic and wanted to stay to look after the store. Dad looks after the store during the day, and I look after the store at night. Some customers will come to the store to buy things at night. Su Qingni said with a smile. She still has to go to school during the day. Shi Zhensun misunderstood what she heard, and shuddered. She asked Su Qingni, "Aren't you afraid?" "No." Su Qingni looked as if it was no big deal. Those customers are very friendly, and they pay very happily. Shi Zhensun was silent for a long time. She remembered Su Qingni's ability to draw talismans, and thought that Su Qingni must be good at dealing with ghosts. By the way, this is the ancestral unique skill of my husband's family, right? If I have a child, should I let the child learn from my husband? But she wants her child to go to college or study abroad in the future, and come back to find a promising job. What should I do? Then give birth to 2 more brothers and sisters, and let them choose which path to take. Or you can let them learn both. Su Qingni's voice reached Shi Zhensun's ears. Shi Zhensun realized that she had just said what she was thinking. Shi Zhensun blushed and patted the little girl in front of her. "You want a brother or sister so much?" Su Qingni nodded and said something that surprised Shi Zhensun. "My brother is here, in my mother's belly." Shi Zhensun was shocked when she heard it. "What did you say?" Su Qingni repeated, "My brother is here, in my mother's belly." Shi Zhensun was surprised and happy, but she didn't dare to believe Su Qingni's words. After all, she was just a child. "How do you know that your brother is here?" Su Qingni stared at Shi Zhensun's belly. "I saw it." Even if she didn't see it, she could tell that Shi Zhensun was pregnant by feeling her pulse. She was pregnant for more than 2 months. Really? Shi Zhensun was surprised. This time she didn't doubt Su Qingni's words. In her heart, Su Qingni was not an ordinary child. She was a capable child. Maybe she really saw the child in her belly. "Is it a brother?" Shi Zhensun asked again. Su Qingni nodded. Shi Zhensun immediately stood up and ran towards the store, calling Zhang Jingshan as she ran. Zhang Jingshan was serving customers, and when he heard Shi Zhensun's call, he thought something bad had happened, so he left the customers behind and ran inside, bumping into Shi Zhensun. Zhang Jingshan hurriedly held Shi Zhensun in his arms and asked with concern, "Zhensun, what's wrong? What happened?" Shi Zhensun stared at Zhang Jingshan with sparkling eyes. "Do you want to be a father?" Chapter 925 Entertainment Firsts v. Zhang Jingshan was so happy that he was in no mood to receive guests. Su Qingni went out to help him receive guests. The guest was a very handsome man. Su Qingni felt familiar. Yes, this person often appeared on TV. She remembered that this person was called Tao Ruai, an actor. He became famous for acting in TV series, but in the past 2 years he has switched to the film industry and also got involved in the singing industry. This person is a big star. "Excuse me, is there anything I can help you with?" Su Qingni asked Tao Ruai politely. Tao Ruai was surprised to see the girl's calm but polite attitude towards him. He was very famous, so famous that everyone from an 80-year-old old lady to an 8-year-old child knew him. It was impossible for the girl in front of him not to know him, right? But she was so indifferent to him. Tao Ruai had a little more affection and curiosity for the girl. "Well, I thought of Mr. Zhang to help me solve the problem, but it seems that he doesn't have time," Tao Ruai said helplessly. Su Qingni released her spiritual sense and scanned Tao Ruai carefully, and understood what problem he encountered. It turned out to be a technique of raising ghosts to harm people in a certain Southeast Asian country. Tao Ruai must have offended someone, and that person released ghosts to harm him. Tao Ruai is a good person, and his merits protected him, which made him unlucky but not in danger of his life. "You can buy a talisman," Su Qingni suggested to Tao Ruai. "The talisman in our house is very good and can solve most problems. Generally, unlucky people will not be unlucky again if they wear a talisman." Tao Ruai was surprised. The little girl actually saw that he had been unlucky all the time. Could she have the same ability as Mr. Zhang? But she is still so young. "I am indeed very unlucky recently, little master. Do you see that I have provoked something unclean?" Tao Ruai asked hurriedly. Su Qingni nodded. "Do you know about the ghost-raising technique of the human demon country? You have offended someone." Tao Ruai was surprised. "Are you saying that someone deliberately harmed me?" Su Qingni nodded. Tao Ruai's face suddenly became very ugly. Su Qingni asked, "Can you think of who is trying to harm you?" Tao Rui mentioned 2 names, but he couldn't tell which one of them wanted to harm him. Su Qingni nodded, and without asking any more questions, she took out 2 amulets from the counter and gave them to Tao Rui. This is the most effective amulet, 500 each. Tao Rui was rich, and he thought that Su Qingni and Zhang Jingshan were really experts, and that the things they sold were justified to be expensive, so he paid without hesitation. But why 2? Su Qingni explained, give 1 to the person closest to you. The little ghost can't harm you, but it will affect your closest person. Tao Rui nodded to express his gratitude, and left with the 2 amulets. Just as Su Qingni was about to put the money away, Zhang Jingshan came out with Shi's Henzhen, and his posture was like little Leo serving the old Buddha. Su Qingni couldn't help laughing. Dad, when did you change your last name to Li? Zhang Jingshan, who was laughing like a fool, was stunned for a moment, and then realized that Su Qingni was mocking him like a little eunuch. You kid, don't you know that pregnant women are precious and need to be cared for all the time? Su Qingni laughed. I know, but you are going too far, right? Sister's Henzhen is only 2 months old now, and you can take care of her like a normal person. The way you look now is really exaggerated. Zhang Jingshan helped Shi's Henzhen to sit on the chair, and replied to Su Qingni, I value your sister's Henzhen and the baby in her belly. Su Qingni showed Zhang Jingshan and Shi's Henzhen 1,000 yuan. Zhang Jingshan was surprised. 2 talismans were sold for 1,000 yuan. That person is so rich? What a fool. Su Qingni, being a celebrity, he must be rich. Zhang Jingshan couldn't help but be moved again. Being a celebrity makes so much money, I want to be a celebrity too. Su Qingni, Dad, our shop makes a lot of money, especially every time you go out on a business trip. The red envelopes given by people are not small. Dad, celebrities earn a lot and spend a lot. They have to maintain their image outside, and they can't wear clothes a second time, so the money goes in and out of the left hand. Dad, you are silent on your chest. If you waste so much, will you feel heartache? Zhang Jingshan knew that he would feel heartache without touching his chest, and gave up the unrealistic idea of becoming a star. Shi's Henzhen smiled and watched her husband bickering with his adopted daughter, and she felt full of happiness. Boss, buy a set of incense, candles and paper money. Another customer came. Su Qingni and Zhang Jingshan turned around and were about to greet the customer, but suddenly felt that this person looked familiar. I seem to have seen this fat man somewhere. Zhang Jingshan said. Su Qingni recognized the fat man. Wasn't he the one who chased her and wanted her to act in a movie a year ago? Is it you? The fat man also recognized Zhang Jingshan and Su Qingni. The father and daughter left a deep impression on him. Su Qingni, a very suitable girl. Needless to say, Zhang Jingshan's attitude of treating him as a liar and staying away from him made Fatty very hurt, and he couldn't forget it even if he wanted to. Do you know us? Zhang Jingshan asked Fatty. Su Qingni pulled the hem of Zhang Jingshan's clothes and reminded Zhang Jingshan in a low voice what happened a year ago. Zhang Jingshan recalled and remembered who Fatty was. His eyes narrowed and stared at Fatty dangerously. So it was you. This is his territory, and he doesn't have so many scruples if he wants to beat Fatty. Fatty shuddered when he was stared at, and couldn't help but say in fear, that, big brother, I'm not a bad person. Really, I'm a good person, my parents can testify for me. My parents live on this street, you must know them. It turned out to be the son of an old neighbor, but why haven't I seen Fatty before? Who are your parents? Zhang Jingshan asked. Fatty hurriedly replied, it's the Pang family couple who sell fruits in front. My name is Pang Zhi and I am their 3rd son. Su Qingni and Shi's Henzhen couldn't help laughing when they heard the name of Fatty. The Pang couple really know how to name things. Pang Zhi, Fatty. Isn't he a fat man who lives up to his name? Zhang Jingshan knew the Pang couple. They did have 3 sons. The eldest and second sons were married and lived with them. One of the sons was a taxi driver and the other a chef. They both had considerable salaries, and the family's living conditions were the best on the whole street. Their youngest son didn't live with the family. I heard that the youngest son was the best student among the 3 sons, and now he is a director, with more prospects than the eldest and second sons in their family. So you are really a director? Zhang Jingshan looked at the fat man and smiled embarrassedly. Well, I misunderstood you before, sorry. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.